Just one third down conversion tonight. Make it 2 on a big run from Avery Johnson all the way to the end zone. How about that?
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Rising up the seam for Keithy in stride. He's got him out to midfield. Terrific throw from Cam Rising.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
This time it's going to be Leonard on the ground. Leonard showing some moves and some speed. A foot race to the 10, to the touchdown. 56 yards. Beautiful run by Riley Leonard.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Hampton wide open running. 30, 25, 20, 10, 5, touchdown Carolina.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Sanders looking wide open, touchdown. Dylan Edwards.
Milroe's going to keep this. Cuts it outside. Almost an offensive face mask. Milroe steps up in the pocket. He's going to take off with it, and he's getting the first down and a lot more. This is what he can do. Milroe might have scored.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on 365 Sports on this Friday afternoon in studio. Nice to be back, of course, the last couple of days after 3 days in Vegas. It was nice to be in Vegas, but it's also great to hit the weekend. Craig Smoke and Paul Catalina are on the set. I'm over here in the, I don't know what this is.
The Nook? The Nook, we could call that the, I don't know.
The throne?
The throne. Listen, if that what makes you feel good about it.
No, it doesn't. it doesn't make me feel.
You better hope this isn't anything like Game of Thrones, though, because the people at the top normally
they don't last very long.
We'll get him an iron throne over there and see how he likes it. You're definitely going to need pillows because it's made out of swords.
Yeah. But whatever it is, your throne, your corner, you're rocking it over
Well,
there.
I'm here, and a lot to get to today. Several interesting topics, plus a pretty good list of guests. John Hoover, Neil Welk, Billy Embody, Grayson Grunhafer, Baylor safety, defensive back Carl Williams IV, Paul's top five, and much more to get to. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, David Smoke, Garrett Ross today is running the mothership inside the studio. So everyone knows that when that day came, when the shocking announcement that Nick Saban was going to retire, that what then became 423 separate coaches affected by Nick Saban retiring because of what happened to other staffs because of the domino effect. 423 coaches and staffers impacted, 38 Power 5 schools impacted, 25 Group of 5 schools impacted, 34 lower-level programs impacted, and more than even a dozen high schools and 10 NFL organizations. That's what the retirement. It's a great article by Sam Kahn, Max Olson, and also Bruce Feldman from theathletic.com.
I wonder if some of the high school coaches that had to move on even know, like before reading that job opened because of like Nick Saban.
Oh,
I mean, they might, but like because it's 400 moves, like some of those high school ones could have been moves 385 to, in the middle. I know there's some bigger ones, but I read it. But like, do you think that guy, like one of the guys like read the articles like, oh, I have this job at this bigger school now because Nick Saban?
Oh, I think everybody knows. It's like, for example, Neil Matalolo had spoken to the San Jose State football team when Brent Brennan took the job at Arizona because Jed Fish goes to Washington. He ended up being at San Jose State. And there was, Chris Kapilovic, the offensive lineman at Baylor, because of the change, goes to Alabama to work for Kalen DeBoer. But, yeah, it's a crazy good article. It's about 12 pages. I printed it out because I love killing trees, and I started reading it, and I couldn't stop because there's a lot of graphics. It's very well done. 400, Craig, 23 coaches and staffers from one guy, the king, the GOAT, in Nick Saban retiring. And from that time, how many different programs were affected? Man.
Yeah, I haven't read the article. Sounds interesting. Love what Max and the guys over there do. But, yeah, sounds like, just an avalanche effect. And, I need to read it now the way you're talking about it. But, that's just something that occurs when you pull out, you tip over one big domino, others are going to follow. And so that in this case, there were hundreds of dominoes that followed. And, about time to put a bow on Saban because, well, he's not coaching this year. Mm-hmm. But, nice to take a look back at all the chaos and the offseason moves that we've been talking about the last few months that were at least partially due to his decision. And now he'll be up on the game day set, and I think he's scheduled to be at SEC Media Days next week, so he's still going to have that presence. We know he's still got an office at Alabama and a lot of stuff in the works. So he's not leaving college football entirely, but he certainly left his mark, and he left a void that took a lot of work and a lot of different hustling around and a lot of different moves to kind of fill back up for, well, sounds like damn near the entire country was affected at some point or another. So, that's the ramifications of the biggest coach in college football deciding somewhat abruptly to call it quits.
Yep, and he had just met with a receivers coach at Washington. They were looking to replace the receivers coach. Walked into a staff meeting right after that and said, I think that's the guy. We'll kind of sleep on it and then look at it again tomorrow. And it wasn't 30 minutes later. None of his staff knew that he had 2 speeches written for a meeting with the team. And I know, he's gone and move on, but this is a great article because it goes into all the interweaving of all of that. He walks into a team meeting and tells everybody he's going to retire. And he had 2 speeches, and that was the one that he chose. So just a little bit of a look back on that. 423 coaches and staffers affected. When Jed Fish took the job at Washington, he offered 21 people on his staff to move to Washington. All of them went with him. And then, of course, then you have Brent Brennan from San Jose State. Now, so here, the latest Heisman Trophy odds. This doesn't happen according to ESPN Bet very often. This was as of today. Dylan Gabriel has now become, at least through what they have, the favorite, barely above Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers, who are usually 1 and 2. And it's like a late move that normally does not happen until once games are starting to be played. So Dylan Gabriel now, the favorite, slightly ahead of Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. And it's been a pretty good heater for Oregon and with recruiting and what they've done and also the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, it's early to talk Heisman candidates really until they started. But Dylan Gabriel's interesting because, there's 2 quarterbacks this year at major programs, Will Howard and Dylan Gabriel, who essentially got pushed out by the next big thing. And both of them are getting Heisman love, right? So it's kind of a weird thing. And it's modern college football that, yes, you're going to push out a 5th or 6th year guy because you don't want to lose if you're Kansas State, Avery Johnson, who's, could be transcendent to your program, or if you're Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold, who could be transcendent to your program.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm a little leery and not necessarily a huge fan of a gambling site putting out odds and gauging reactions and trying to stir the pot as far as the betting odds go. That's sort of new. I mean, we see that from, FanDuel or, places that do that on the regular or have been doing that. But to see ESPN Bet still a little weird, and especially when they're clearly trying to poke the bear a little bit when it comes to fan reaction that Dylan Gabriel's now the favorite. But besides that, I don't think there's a outright just name that reigns above all. So sure, if you think Dylan Gabriel's the guy, then go add on to his favorite status that probably will be fleeting. Or if you think it'll be Quinn Ewers, then go take advantage of those odds, or Carson Beck and Ollie Gordon and whoever else is on that list. I mean, there's a long train of candidates that you could mention right now that I'm sure will get whittled down pretty quickly once the season gets going and actual games are finally played. But, yeah, I mean, just in general, I think that Dillon Gabriel's a logical choice to throw out there as a favorite to win. I mean, he's a really good player. He's at a really good school with a coach who had a really fun offense last year with Noah Fafita running the show along with Jaden DeLora. And, he's got receivers. He's got some tools. So I think that, Oregon's going to be a really fun team to watch, and a big part of that is having Dillon Gabriel slinging and running around. So, sure, if you think he's the favorite, then I guess go place your bets.
And if you look at everybody on the list, all of them are quarterbacks, at least the first 10 or 12 names on the list. And apparently there was a rush of money over the weekend, the 4th of July weekend, and it could change and somebody else. Of those 5, the top 5, these are the top 5. Gabriel, Beck, Ewers, Dart, and Will Howard. And I guess Amavieva of Tennessee is also tied with Will Howard, as is Jalen Milroe. Is there when I see Will Howard, I still I know he's at Ohio State.
I like Will Howard. I think he's a gamer. I think he's going to be gritty there at Ohio State. I think he's going to bring them some leadership. But why is he there? The school he was at decided to go with the guy who was his backup. Most of the time when that happens in professional sports, you call that getting pushed out. I don't know.
Yeah, but he landed.
Dillon Gabriel's at the top of this list, and he was pushed out.
Exactly, that was my point. Yeah.
Yeah, but he landed at Ohio State. Yeah. So, I mean, he's obviously pretty good. Yeah. And they have a great crop of wide receivers and great duo of backs. And they're set up as, one of the main favorites heading into this year. I know it's kind of par for the course for Ohio State. But, I mean, really this year they're getting a lot of love because of, the amount of talent that they've compiled, the way they hit the transfer portal, and just the way the whole picture's kind of coming together. So, yeah, I mean, Will Howard got – pushed out, so to say, but that just speaks to how highly Chris Kleiman and company think of Avery Johnson. And I think they kind of tapped out what they'd seen Will Howard. They kind of seen that, and they knew enough to say, yeah, Avery's our guy. So I think you trust Kleiman and company made the right decision. And the flashes we saw of Avery Johnson, I certainly think reinforce that belief. Not a knock against Will Howard. It's just that Avery's the right man for K-State. And Will Howard is good enough to then go land at a place where, it's a wide receiver factory, and a lot of good quarterbacks have been rolling out of there under Ryan Day as well. So I think everybody won in this situation, and as good as Ohio State's expected to be, I don't know that he'll be the best player in their offense, so I'm not sure about those odds there. But, anybody can slap together the quarterbacks from, the top 7 schools, which is basically what that list is.
Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, Miami, A&M.
Yeah, so, I don't know about A&M, although I know that they're getting a lot of love for Weigman. Weigman, there's a lot of people that, really believe in his abilities, and that's understandable if you've watched him at all. I don't know, though, that they'll be – I think you could take the top 10 of the preseason top 25 rankings, and I bet you could draw a line list to list. I'm probably every single one of those matching up, maybe not in that order, but within that top 10 with the exception of the Aggies.
Yeah. And there we are. So just a little note about that note. Now, it's a day today where the ACC went 1-2, Florida State and Clemson went 1-1. And we don't need to dig too deep into this because by Monday it changes again. However, the ACC statement on today's ruling in Pinellas, Pickens County, we are pleased with the dismissal of Clemson's sovereign immunity claim, disappointed with the other 2 rulings. The ACC will continue to focus protecting the best interest of our membership. So Clemson won a ruling, Florida State won a ruling, and the ACC won a ruling. Clemson's was in South Carolina, Florida State's was in Florida, and the ACC was where they are in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah. And what does this mean for the ACC doomsday clock right now? Nothing.
No, because none of those teams can win on the road.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. It doesn't mean it's perfect by David Teal. And this is how, look, the ACC got the ruling, on yes, they can make this all in North Carolina. And then the ruling in Florida is no, you do business down here. And then there's some other things. We're not getting in the weeds of this.
No.
Because it's kind of been our point about Clemson and FSU all along. This whole idea that this is going to be done in 2 weeks or that anything is imminent or anything like that Every other day, there's another ruling in the case, and they still haven't gone to arbitration in Florida, which the judge in that case ordered them to do, which I believe is in late August or September. So nothing's going to get done until arbitration. So pump the brakes.
Yeah.
No, I think there's just a lot of stalemate going on right now in the courts, clearly, when everybody's seemingly winning on their home territory, and you're talking about, 3 different cases where that was the outcome. So, not much in the way of traction. I know that doesn't stop the speculation and the wish casting and all of that, and that's understandable to some extent. I still don't buy at all into the FSU Clemson to the Big 12 stuff.
Right.
I mean, I know why it's fun to talk about, but that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I've thought about it a good deal. Like, I get the hey, this is the last boat on the island, but I just don't think it gets to that point. I know what people say about the SEC's appetite, but I don't know. I think that to pass up on all of the rivalries you would inherit and the automatic TV ratings that you would get and the stature of those schools, I just still don't believe anything that says, there's no interest. The SEC's, what the SEC was also fat and happy before Texas and Oklahoma. I think they were probably fat and happy, but then those suddenly became available, and guess what? They were hungry.
Yep.
And I think this is a similar thing where you can't come out if you're anybody and exactly say what your precise desires are. I think the Big Ten's got an appetite. I don't know exactly, though, because they have such a different mix of schools of what their real list looks like. And I, at the same time, see all of the talk about the SEC with like Virginia and North Carolina, and I can understand North Carolina in particular. I think the Virginia thing, that would be just I don't know. I just feel like that would be a watering down. Like, if you found a way to water down when you could go and really grow even further, I feel like that would be a way to do it. Although I know, like, the academic side or the pinkies in the air, old school Southern traditionalist side probably view that differently. Like, Virginia would be appealing to them for non-football reasons. But, it's just another day where the merry-go-round of, believe what you want to believe continues on, but the court's rulings remain what they have been for the most part throughout these last few months, which is every day another win for another side that really just keeps this thing sort of, in the same place that it has been all along, which is not leaning in any one direction and not really with the clock that's ticking on them necessarily right now. But it's fun to discuss.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. If I was a Big Ten or SEC fan and they told me, like, hey, we got a team from the ACC you guys are going to play. Oh, my God, is it Clemson? Is it Florida State? Oh, my, is it Miami, North Carolina? You're like, Virginia. You're like, oh.
Yeah, and that's
okay.
and that's when different type of statistics, data, et cetera, are thrown out from how high an institution is ranked, et cetera, to much more. Okay, so there's that. That's the story. It's still something, and Craig and I, we talked about this a little bit on the way back when we were downtown having dinner on Tuesday night, and even on the way back from Austin on Wednesday night after we flew in, is that you have to be very aware of what is out there, but you also have to be very aware, because we don't want to sit there and throw spaghetti noodles against the refrigerator to see if they're done. So it is something to mention because 3 rulings occurred, but it almost just like treads water, because all 3 rulings, all 3 teams at one point, including the team as an ACC, they also won and lost.
Well, hey, man, I mean, do what you want to do, but I think we're just making it clear for us. Like, when we started talking realignment a couple of years ago, we were basing it all on information that you were receiving that was all spot on, like completely like real deal source, like in the dark of night type stuff, if people really understood what was going on then. And then, last year with the Pac-12, you had the situation where it was very obvious. There wasn't a court ruling. It was, do you have a TV deal? And if not, the pressure's going to keep getting cranked up the closer we draw to the season, to the point where we got about right here last year, right? Mm-hmm. And then the dam broke loose after over a year's worth of back and forth and various reporting on it. And this one, it's hard to gauge how the courts, especially multiple courts in multiple states, are going to rule. So, have fun with the speculation. But I think from our end in particular, we're not as much of like the fantasy booking. We kind of talk about what's real and, what's possible. But yeah, we're not going to go like off the deep end as far as like what happens if this happens, and that's not really as much of our style all the time.
I mentioned this in a text to you guys earlier today. Every time something that is even speculation pops up, there are 2 or 3 accounts that all of a sudden are the czar of information when it comes to realignment. And I mean, you could just throw stuff out there We are covering it because there's news today. But it doesn't mean anything imminent or even otherwise whenever that might be.
Yeah, I think the trying to push it as though like the cliff, where they're on the cliff, their pinky is the only thing holding them up. I've seen that for about 6 months now, and everybody's still hanging where they were. So I think, trying to put that sense of urgency on it to get people all riled up is obviously a tactic to generate interest. I think the topic itself is just of interest, and so if you want to roll with it, fine. I'm just saying from our standpoint, we're going to, fantasy talk a little bit, but we're going to mostly stick to what's actually going on and not so much of like every rumor that comes across, taking that and running with it like it's, a 90-yard touchdown. But
we were able to discuss it slightly in certain ways with your Mark. He didn't really give us much, but it's not like he ever said that they're completely like blind to what's going on in America.
No, I think it's very clear that the Big 12 is open for business. I think, again, that means a lot of things, not just realignment, but I do think it also can mean realignment. And I think there's undoubtedly interest on the Big 12's part to sit back and watch how some dominoes fall in courts as far as the ACC goes, and to be ready to spring to action whenever that time comes. And I'll say this. I do believe that Brett Yormark was very intentionally riling things up and planting some seeds with his third best conference in America talk the other day. I think that was absolutely intentional. He's too smart not to take it that way. I also think it's more than just simply a realignment statement of, hey, we're open for business and we're the third best conference in America, wink, wink, nod, nod, Florida State and Clemson. It's also him just portraying the image that he wants the rest of the conference to believe in as well of, yeah, we're the third best. We can be proud of that. And, yeah, if you want to go, join us and have some fun, then we're willing to talk. So I think that's always a possibility.
It's nice the last couple of years they're in a position of adding or can add and or of not power, but in a power better leverage, and not the ones that are worried about somebody leaving.
They've got stability.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Stability is what they have.
Do they need more money? Yeah, they need more money? Absolutely. And he's working on that too. But they do have what is not the house of cards, so to speak, that if one of them goes, then all the other ones come tumbling down.
And I'm glad you said that, because there is always, you have to be open to the possibility. I've said this about Yormark for a couple months now, of as much as you love him being on the hunt, as much as you love his third best conference in America quote the other day, which could be taken as a couple of different tactical ways that he said that, as I just mentioned, of sending a message to other schools and other places, but also just reinforcing the confidence in his own league. He's a disruptor. He is absolutely a disruptor.
He admitted that.
Yeah, and he disrupted the Pac-12 last year, and it was very calculated, and it worked. And so I think there's some of that going on here. I just don't feel, though, it's as imminent as, like the TV contract clicking or counting down, so to speak. But for the Big 12, I do feel that you have to also play defense. And so I'm sure he's smart enough to do that, but I do think that while you're, for the most part as a conference, the Island of Misfit Toys or the League of Misfit Toys, there are some attractive brands that, you do have to be mindful of, like, hey, there's always the possibility that they could get a call one day depending on how things fall.
Better to be at least proactive than reactive, which was the history for too long, and put them in a position of almost extinction. Now, Oklahoma, and the way college football is now with the salary cap and the transfer portal and NIL, Jake Rosenberg, former part of the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl championship franchise. He is the former executive. He has a consulting firm, the Athlete Group, and they're going to advise Oklahoma's athletic department on impending transition to the salary cap and also just college athletics as it's become more and more pro sports, pro almost NFL model, rather than what it's been for 100+ years, which has been different than what we've seen in the last 4 years.
Yeah, you'll see more and more of this. This is going to be look, Dave Aranda said he was going to the Cardinals, right? That time we saw him, he was going to talk to the Cardinals about how they manage things. And that's just going in and being able to, use a relationship to get some advice. That's not hiring somebody from the Cardinals to do it. That's just, like taking a weekend course, essentially, to learn how to do something or maybe to apply something. So eventually, the general managers will be, you're going to need one. You're going to need one who can balance out contracts and caps and,
it's a completely different category of part of the athletic department. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's a part that's going to be, I think for the top level of schools, a normal role now within those programs for those who can swing it. And I think that'll be obviously those who have the most money. So you're talking 30-something, if not 40-something, 50-something teams that, all are kind of competing at the same sort of level, even if there are tens of millions of dollars of disparity. So, yeah, you're looking at the power leagues and, or the autonomous, if you want to be more precise. And so I think that'll probably be a trend that gets picked up. Like the GM in college football, that's not anything brand new by any means. Like that's been around. It's been around here. Oh, yeah. Like Dennis Poley in there for a little while under Matt Rule. But, yeah, I think that there's just going to be more of the external staff type of stuff that you see getting built up more like an NFL franchise as we turn towards more of what is obviously a very blurry but clear line that's showing us that this is still college football, yes, but it's also very much leaning in the direction of pro football because of the money and because of the way that rosters have to be handled. So I think this is a smart move by Oklahoma. I think bringing in a guy with a track record of success it's smart. I think it's a good move by Brent Venables. I think others have probably done the same or will follow suit. And as y'all mentioned, Dave Aranda told us in Las Vegas that, yeah, he was going to or had just visited the Cardinals and was picking their brains on how to manage caps and stuff. So that's where we are. I don't know if that really should be on his plate, but I think as the head coach, it is, because you do still need to have at least some loose understanding when talking about these things with your personnel and with your staff. So, yeah, that's where we are. And that's, again, a brilliant move, I think, by Oklahoma.
Yeah, I do. And if you go to their Baylor any school's staff directory, and then you go down to football, they're the assistant coaches, you have the 10 or whatever there might be, and then there's always those who are part of recruiting, et cetera. But there's more and more that are all about personnel, not just the college personnel, but also staffing, NIL, salary cap. You're going to see much more. Nick Saban had, 40 or 50 or so staff members when he retired, and that's part of what led to the carousel. But there are numerous there are people now that are more than just, hey, this is where we need to go recruit. That's someone completely different than this title of Director of Football Operations.
Yeah, no, this isn't a guy that's going to hit the road and find your next tight end or anything. This is a guy who's trying to figure out how you can make the money work and how your roster can be organized to the best of its ability. So I think for all the talk and the scare quotes about the death of college football, we've certainly had these conversations about the ramifications of NIL and the hours coaches have now to actually relax versus what they had maybe a few years ago, and that all being a result of NIL and just all the various rules that are in place. We talked about, and many others talked about, the potential exodus of head coaches to the NFL because they just simply don't want to deal with these types of things. Well, the other side of that coin is with college football becoming more of a business, you can see executive types who leave the NFL to come to college football because there's suddenly roles carved out for them. So, there's some give and take there, but I think it just speaks to the business that we're covering and the potential for that to even grow more and more in that direction.
By the way, what Monday, what is it? When is the EA Sports release date? Is it Monday? I
think it's the 19th.
Oh, the 19th. So it's a week from today.
I think Tuesday is the if you bought the if you paid extra,
I bring that up because Bijan Robinson said, I've never looked forward to a Monday in all my life like I look forward to this one. I'm thinking maybe camp starts, but it's because of the release of the game. So that's going to be a big deal next week.
The pre thing.
Yeah, no, you just reminded me. I think I have it sitting in my Best Buy cart. I was going to pre-order it just to have it and just to check it out early on. And I'm not going to be one of those that's like streaming and everything because I'm not good enough to do that. I play video games for fun on occasion, but I'm certainly not one of those that's going to spend 10 hours day number one streaming live on Twitch or something, right? Like that are really good at it. The content creators that know how to really profile it. But it is on the 19th, the release date, so that's a week from today.
All right.
That's at least what it says on the Best Buy website because I was going to pre-order it, and now you've reminded me that I need to do that.
Yeah, Josh Hybrid on the chat room. Monday if you pre-ordered it.
Okay, so Monday, all right. Yeah. Also, release date 7. So that must be speaking to just, the regular. So, yeah, Monday. Oh, cool. I'm going to go order that right now, and I'll pick it up on Monday.
So, Will Howard is at Ohio State and a really good player, but he was pushed out because of the expectations and excitement about Avery Johnson. Colorado State head coach Jay Norvell said that his quarterback, Braden Fowler Nicolosi, was offered $600,000 by K-State to enter the portal. Now read the graphic. At the bottom, offered him $600K because they lost their quarterback if he got in the portal. they have their quarterback. That's why
So
Howard
they would be
hit the
paying
portal
$600,000 for a backup
with
quarterback.
All due respect, I saw Nicolosi. He's a really good player, but I don't know.
He's a Texas guy, actually.
And how much is he also using this to leverage his own NIL at Colorado State?
I'm sure that's a huge part of it. If Braden Fowler Nicolosi is a smart guy, or his dad's a business guy, or they just have some acumen of some sort, I'm sure that's a large part of it because it doesn't make any sense. He's a good player. He also threw a ton of interceptions last year because he's young. He still needs to grow a little bit, but he's talented enough to make things really exciting. Like, kind of one of those that like boom or bust guys. Mm-hmm. He's very much a talent. He could have a game where you're like, he just threw for 600 yards and 6 touchdowns with like a pick, but they win a shootout, or he could throw like 4 interceptions. It was kind of how he, on an off day, he struck me last year. But yeah, that's kind of hard to imagine. Now, he had also said that they had not only tampered with Braden Fowler Nicolosi, but they had tampered with Torrey Horton, their wide receiver, as well. Now, that's a bit more believable, and I think that might have been out there even besides Jay Norvell mentioning that. But
why would he have just singled out Kansas State?
I don't know. Like, I'm not agreeing with that. Is all I'm helping like kind of unwind what all he actually did say, but I don't know why he chose to use his platform to call out Kansas State like that. He's a guy who's been very outspoken about his dislike with Dion, and so he's popped off about things before, and I don't know what, other than obviously the offering of money apparently that Kansas State did to a couple of his players, I don't know what led him to believe this was a good idea, but I don't think it's being received as well outside of Colorado State fandom as maybe he would hope for, because I do think there's an element of, yeah, we all know it's kind of going on, but what does it accomplish to go out and put a team on blast, especially when part of the story doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I don't know. I don't know what – but, at the same time, though, what I can't appreciate is we've had Jeff Traylor on the show a million times. He talks about how much his roster's been tampered with. I don't think anybody can deny that that's the case when you look at where a lot of UTSA guys have eventually ended up. But he has stopped short of calling out folks because I think there's that business part of this.
You know why? Because the coach at Mineola, from back when he was at Gilmer, is going to turn him in for taking a wide receiver.
Well, he doesn't really have room to talk, actually. Yeah, you're right.
So, but the other thing is that
that's an East Texas joke, by the way.
You know that a lot of coaches would, like, Jeff Traylor could go to his coaches and be like, hey, you better not tamper. We don't want to tamper. But he doesn't know. But he doesn't know, or he doesn't have to know. He could have plausible deniability in something. He also didn't want to, once coaches start calling each other out. Now, Jay Norvell was pretty, calling out Kansas State specifically. Chris Kleiman.
He also mentioned A&M and Ole Miss, for what it's worth. I think it's just the focus is on K-State.
Yeah. Now, those two I totally buy. I totally buy that.
Well, I buy K-State. I don't think they're just little cute and cuddly Wildcat. No. I think Chris Kleiman wants to win, baby.
Yeah, but I do think that, maybe he's picking out ones that won't really fire back or they don't have to play, as opposed to that. But look, the minute that a coach comes out and says this program did this, then you run the risk of going, oh, hold on, over here, like you said about Mineola, over here in the back, Jay Norvell, here.
What about the running back at New Mexico?
Whoa.
Yeah. I just thought that was an interesting note and just wanted to bring that up. There's 2 or 3 more college football notes I want to bring up in our what we do to start each show. Our first guest will be Grayson at 3:45 today.
By the way, I think the final note is that there's definitely people behind the scenes that are like, Braden Fowler Nicolosi is getting offered by Kansas State $600,000. Don't they have Avery Johnson? Shh, they're offering him $600,000. Spread the word. And then, I'm sure that worked out well for the players. It didn't work out as well for Jay Norvell.
And what you'd love to know, if you could just go on a computer and Nicolosi is making, let's say, $350,000 at Colorado State, which he might be making $80,000. And did he get a bump this year?
Right.
Because of it, which is kind of like NFL free agency.
That's the business part of this now that you have to take into consideration. Just because you get told somebody's tampering, they're offering this or that, you need to have your spies to know whether that's legit or not. So, yeah, I fully believe the Torrey Horton thing, though. And you know what? That's not a knock on Kansas. It's tampering. If that's, what happened, but okay, prove that and then go prove all the rest of the things that happened. It's not a knock that I believe that. It's the reality of where we are. I believe that about anybody, you would say.
I wish they could have proof, and even a text message may not be proof. And you lose a scholarship if you're found to be tampering in any way. Now, they will never do that.
No.
But it would be nice to see at least if there was some consequence.
I don't know how it's policeable and not chaotic. Like, you ever watch...
Every coach in America would go,
Yeah, you ever watch a legal show and somebody comes up and goes, look, I know that you don't want to make a deal with my client, but I know things about the DA's office. And you're like, whoa. That's the kind of thing that would be going on here, because you go to the coaches convention and everybody would be like, we got to do something about tampering.
Yeah.
And then we'll say, okay, well, here's the rule. And they're like, well...
Yeah.
Because, again, you could lose a scholarship because of something a coach does that you may not even really know about down the line, and it's under you, but you don't want to risk agreeing to that rule that would be like, because you'll look back and you're like,
you know what?
I lost 5 scholarships because I hired one guy who
I
tampered.
still wish they could do it. I wish they could do it. All right, couple more things. Brandon Marcello, this actually came out, I think, maybe while we were still on the air yesterday, but the Pac-12's former and current teams will maintain bowl affiliations for the next couple of years. I do think this was late yesterday. I don't know if we ever got to it or not.
It was during Big 12 Media Days. It was first floated because at one point Mark was talking about how the Vegas Bowl, like he's very much about having more Vegas in their life moving forward. And he kind of hinted that the Vegas Bowl was going to be a possibility, which it will be one of the various bowls. But yeah, it was floated out. It's just now go ahead and finish now being finalized or being made official.
So there we are. There's the list of all the games. And they got to fill them.
So that means
that's more bowl games for the Big 12 if they could have enough teams who were eligible to get to bowl games that could fill up their own and plus these here too.
Or the ACC or the Big Ten because they've all got Pac schools. So all the teams that left, they are all eligible for the bowls that you see on the screen, just like they would have been if the Pac still existed, plus Oregon State and Washington State. So Arizona State, Utah, and also Colorado. You hope that they're able to snatch some of those spots. If not, all those spots that they possibly can. Same thing for, whatever leagues, ACC or Big Ten that also welcome those schools. So, a little bit more room to kind of spread the teams around if they're able to get to that 6-win mark.
Now, this one here, Paul, you sent this, I think, for yesterday. We didn't get to it. I saw this as well. The Mountain West had their media day at the Circa, the hotel in Vegas, which is a strictly 21 years old and older hotel. Ashton Gente, who's a phenomenal player. We've talked about him. We've had the coach on from Boise State. Craig, you've followed him and with all the Earl Campbell stuff.
I'm a huge advocate for him.
20 years old. He had to have a solo media day by himself at the Bellagio. There's a picture of him. That's his media day because he was not allowed in the hotel.
Had I known about this,
would you have gone?
I would have stayed an extra night and just walked downstairs
and interviewed
him at the Bellagio there, because that, I feel, it's so weird. But it would have been great because
that's our guy.
That's our guy.
We had him on the week of the Earl Campbell event. Yeah. And we've talked about him before.
Well, nobody can tell me he doesn't have time for this. He's the only one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's funny and unique. It's another kind of very college football-y thing, sort of like the Pac-12 media day. It's just wonky and kind of funny and weird of like a 2-team media day that's semi-funeral or whatever. And then there's like the one-man media day because he's not 20. Like those are just the quirky things that you get with college football. But kudos to Jeremiah Dickey and Boise State for saying like, we're still going to find a way to get him media. And I guarantee you there was people that came and rolled around and talked to him. He's the best player in the league. He is the best player in the league. He was the best player last year offensively in that league, and I'm blanking on who the defensive player of the year was. Otherwise, I would say outright he was the best player in the league, but he had opportunities to lead Boise State without a doubt after a monster year that he had, and he chose to stay in Boise. He's a military kid. He went to high school in Texas eventually at Lone Star, and then ended up at Boise and has really made a mark for himself after what he was able to do last year, which just double checking here, he was 1,300 plus yards rushing, 14 TDs on the ground, had 500 plus yards receiving, 5 TDs on the ground. He was one of the top 2 or 3 at all-purpose yards if you don't count special teams. And I think even if you do, he was still top 3 or so in that category. I think Ishmael Mahdi from Texas State maybe was the top guy overall, and Jonte was like 2 or 3. So he's a great player. It's a great return for Boise State and a really cool way to have him make his media day mark.
He's like, he had to have the best of times. By the way, Muhammad Kamara, defensive end from Colorado State last year, defensive player of the year in the Mountain West Conference.
Had I known that this was going to happen, I know that he didn't just show up Wednesday morning in Vegas. We could have had him on Tuesday night.
No. Yeah. And you know what? Knowing our connections with Boise State, they would have made him available.
Yeah, just like, hey, somebody come back to the Bellagio with me and bring a camera and a microphone, and let's get this done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been happy to do that.
And here's a Brett McMurphy special. You know, he's very much, we've got great college analysts and columnists that come on this show, and we'll have some today too. But he also has an amazing sense of humor. Here is San Jose State's practice field. They bought 4 fake plastic coyotes, placed them on the fields each night. The reason, the geese everywhere. San Jose State got tired of having to clean it up daily and move coyotes around each night to fool the geese. So far, so good. That's like ducks in the pond, right?
That's like
scarecrows.
The swallows that go back to Capistrano on their way.
How about being the field maintenance guy?
On the field at San Jose State.
Oh, my God.
Garrett, you said that was the most Oglesby thing ever?
This is literally the most Oglesby thing ever. Like, you go to Oglesby, there's constantly animals running on the field and doing their thing. So, yes, this reminded me of home.
Where did we set up for that 6-man game, Smokey, that time? Was it Golson? Yeah, it was Golson. I went to Golson. We were at the radio station. We were doing like the 6-man game of the week. Kyle Yeomans did for us.
I thought, yeah.
And
I also thought it was right around the corner.
Yeah, there was the Parkview Christian one. Yeah. But the one I went to Golson, because that was the first one we did, and I went the week before we were doing the game so that we could kind of assess if we needed to buy anything. And so I went out there. I had to test the internet. And so the coach was really nice. And he walked, and we were walking on the field, and he said, hey, don't take your eyes off the ground when you're walking. We've got a bleep load of gopher holes. Oh. And so they were trying to figure out a way to get rid of the gophers. And they realized what happened is somebody had done some dynamite underground blasting over near them. And then the gophers, moved to their field. So.
Geese crap, that's great. You see sometimes around golf courses, you might have ducks or whatever. Retired stockbroker mentioned geese crap messes up golf greens worse than maybe even a cow. A baseball note, which normally Craig has a lot of that on Off the Radar on Tuesday and Thursday.
Let Paul Skenes, let him do his thing. Come on, let's go. Here we go.
Starting pitcher for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game for the National League. And listen to this stat. This is from Jason Stark. Randy Johnson and Max Scherzer combined for 2 starts in their entire Hall-worthy careers with 0 hits allowed and 11 strikeouts or more. Skenes now has 2 of those in his first 11 starts in his career.
Jeez. Golly. He's unbelievable to watch. I hope it lasts a long time.
I hope he pitches for 15
healthy.
years. Yep.
The word I was looking for was cook. Let Paul Skenes, and I just totally blanked. Let Paul Skenes cook. The more I thought about that last night, them pulling him in the midst of a no-hitter when he clearly still had some more gas in the tank, it's just like, man, are you robbing him of being able to make some history because you're worried about where he is 3 years from now? I mean, again, I get it, but yeah, I don't love that for baseball, man. I really don't think that's a great look, and I don't think it's a great thing for the fans to pull a guy at 99 pitches, 7 innings into a pretty dominant no-hitter situation. I hate that for the game. I do.
I do.
But he's awesome. He is awesome.
It's still a topic, but imagine how exciting it would be had he thrown the no-hitter.
Oh, yeah, it would have been great. Yeah. Even a rookie, Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a rookie Nolan Ryan, a rookie Bob Gibson, a rookie Dwight Gooden, any of those guys that were throwing at
Randy
Johnson. Could you imagine in their day the manager walking out to the mound, you're 7 innings into a no-hitter and going, all right, you're gonna leave the game?
No, it would be like if somebody got a hit off of them and kind of posed, they're going to get drilled. There's a story I thought I sent to you guys that Rick Sutcliffe may have told, that the manager of the Cardinals at the time was walking out to the mound to pull Gibson, in the 8th inning or 7th inning. And Gibson said to him, what in the blank are you doing out here? And the manager just kept walking out towards center field. He goes, I need to go say something to our center field.
There's also a clip of Mike Mussina in the midst of a no-hit effort. He was down to the last couple outs when he was with the Yankees. And there's a great shot of Joe Torre starting to even move that direction, and Mussina like gives him a look and maybe even has said something that, and like Joe Torre's like, okay, dude, like, whoa, like I was just looking out for you, pal. And Mussina did not finish the no-hitter. He got, I think he gave up a hit with 1 out to go.
And that's Joe Torre's fault.
And that's
Joe Torre's fault.
He got him out of rhythm, I guess.
Yeah.
But so it sucked that he didn't finish that, because that would have been a perfect ending. But it was hilarious to see like the look and the things that he said without saying them to Joe Torre that got him back in that dugout pretty quick. Yeah.
Yep, the glance. Like, Paul, when you get home and you said, hey, I got something to do, there's a glance. It's silent treatment, right? Mm-hmm. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from Grayson Grundhafer, 365 Sports football analyst, John Hoover, on the move by Oklahoma, which, of course, there will be many others, of hiring someone that will help understand and get them through what is the change when it comes to the salary cap and much more in college football. Also today, Neil Welky covers Colorado. He was there at Media Days. His overall view on what he thought or saw and heard when it comes to the Buffaloes, and Billy Embody on SMU's heater when it comes to recruiting, and Carl Williams, Baylor defensive back, plus Paul's top 5, and this is 365 Sports.
It's the heat of summer, but the real heat is what you're cooking on the grill, smoker, or oven. Waco Custom Marketplace can be your go-to playmaker for summertime grilling. You can't go out and eat? Be your own chef. Custom ordered, cut ribeyes, sirloins, fillets, New York strips. Focus on high-quality beef at a competitive price. Waco Custom Marketplace has fresh deli cuts with sliced turkey, ham, pepperoni, or corned beef. Fresh seafood, salmon, shrimp, mahi-mahi, live lobsters, and great-priced chicken products, whole birds, tenders, chicken breast, and wings. Smoked items unique to Waco, house-made bacon, summer sausage, boudin, hot links, and German sausage. Every seasoning for every meal or occasion, grilling, baking, or frying. Your hometown grocery store with canned goods, pastas, fresh baked bread, buns and chips, sauce, condiments to pickles, charcoal, and lighter fluid, cold beer and wine. The best kolaches in Waco, mouth-watering cinnamon rolls, here for you in the community, helping avoid the long lines and crowded stores. Serving quality local products to the Waco community and beyond. Go online for more of the weekly values on their Facebook page. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Make this the summer of Ram at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home in a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star for just 2.9% for 72 months, with no payments for 90 days. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off at Allen Samuels.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
By the way, up until tomorrow when they shut their doors, mahi-mahi is available fresh, $13.99 a pound. Shrimp, chicken wings, and more on sale. Pork chops at Waco Custom Marketplace. This is the Richard Carr Motors Baylor Bear Hotline. We're joined by Grayson Grunhafer, 365 Sports football analyst. Grayson, we were at Media Days, as you know, on Wednesday, and unfortunately we weren't able to play the Aranda interview, but all of it is on transcript, and Craig put up the quote when he was so honest about the little bit of a nice recruiting run we're paying players. What was your reaction when you saw that?
You know, I think it was just, well, first of all, Craig, obviously, with the tweet that blew up and went completely viral was awesome to see. And I know we were having conversations about it on the other, Colt and I, and just kind of thinking about, not just that he was honest about that, but also just, I think it's been more than just the words, right? We've seen it with action. I mean, the fact that they went out and got a guy like Kamarian Morgan, winning a battle over A&M, winning a battle over SMU, and all his other offers, that you could mention. I mean, that was kind of a sign, right? And what they did in their transfer portal was also a sign of this. But I like how open and honest he was about it, because obviously, as we saw last year, he didn't really lean in to NIL. He didn't really lean into the transfer portal fully. And now I think this offseason, there's been a complete shift, and it was a needed one. It was one that was going to have to happen if Baylor was going to have success under Dave Aranda, and I think he saw that. And it's a welcome change. It's something that absolutely needed to happen, and I appreciate Dave Aranda for being very honest about that, because it absolutely is the thing that has changed. NIL and transfer portal are absolutely the things that have changed Baylor's recruiting, and I think you're going to see it with the talent that they have on the field next year from the transfer portal and the quality of their recruiting class this year.
Grayson, one of the other big changes is he's going to be calling the defensive plays, and that's the thing that stuck out to me most. Sans the "we're paying players" comment was his approach is completely different than it's been the entire time he's been here. What do you make of that, and how it might affect other realms of the team, but also the importance of having somebody on offense like Jake Spavital, who's been a head coach before too?
Definitely. And I think the thing that, really when I took a step back and kind of listened to all of his interviews and, everyone talking to him, and what kind of was the root of what he was saying about that specific thing, Paul. And the thing that he kept bringing up was just this philosophy of getting back to ball. And I think he said the word ball so many times, and just in reference to, how he's going to handle his day to day, right? Sacrificing time, with family, or sacrificing time on relationships, and focusing all in on watching game tape from this game or this team, or really just diving back into the full-on game planning and getting better as a football mind, and making sure that, he's up to date on all the trends that are going around in college football, to make sure that he can put together the best defensive scheme possible. And he mentioned that a few times. He went and brought up his time at Wisconsin, where he felt like he was a machine at that point. And I think he's trying to get back to that point where, it is all about the football. And Baylor needed that. I think Dave Aranda needed that, because I think over the last couple of years, we maybe saw some flaws maybe in him as a head coach. And I think he saw those flaws as well, and just kind of getting back to the thing that he's great at, right? Which is X's and O's, coaching defense. I think is a welcome change for Baylor, and something that Dave Aranda needed, and I think the Baylor program needed. So, that philosophy of back to ball was definitely something that stuck out to me.
Grayson, we got the official word that Kurt Daniker, who was a big transfer offensive line pickup earlier in the offseason, has officially retired, tearing his ACL, and that ends his college career and ends his Baylor career before it ever really got started. I know that you and Colt had kind of been dropping clues here and there that there was some attrition like this that could be on the horizon. They went and got Colin Truitt just a few weeks ago, which appears to have been the answer to the Daniker piece or just the offensive line piece in general. But your thoughts on where they find themselves, is that I guess you already kind of knew this was coming, but was just your thoughts on Daniker's abrupt stint here and how Truitt fills in that hole?
Right. So, yeah, I did know that this was coming, and it kind of been something lingering for a while. He missed pretty much all of spring football. He played some at the very beginning and then at the very end, but in general, he was just never fully healthy. And I think it just kept being a situation where he could never get back to 100%, right? And so at the end of the day, he had to make this decision. Baylor's known about it for a long time. And so obviously they addressed it by adding Colin Truitt, the Chattanooga offensive lineman, in June. And so that's how they tried to solve it. Right now, I think they've also done that with their other additions with Omar Egbedian, Colton Thomason, and Sidney Fugar. So they've really done a nice job in the transfer portal. But Daniker was expected to be a big-time player for them. 6'4", 332 pounds. And the unfortunate part here is, he played over 800 snaps and played in all 12 games last year for Ohio. And then he comes to Baylor and gets hurt, the very beginning of spring football. And so it's not really something that I feel like they could have, planned on. But I do know that after he did get injured, they had to, go back into the portal and try to figure out a way to make sure the offensive line didn't fall apart because of it. And I think adding Truitt will definitely, bring it closer to where they need to be. But I'd be lying if I said Daniker wasn't a pretty big loss. He was a very different type of prospect from a physicality and size standpoint, that's for sure. Truitt more technician. So we're going to have to kind of see how they kind of move things around. If maybe they move a guy like Colton Thomason to guard to try to make up for some of these things. We'll see. That's something we'll probably know in the fall. But it is a significant loss for Baylor. But the good news is they have tried to address it already.
So they did get Morgan out of South Oak Cliff, and you've been all over that and interviewed him and all that and what that could mean because of a very highly rated player. And they've been on this heater, so to speak. So Taz Williams from Red Oak, the wide receiver, has a list from everybody known to man. I saw a note where somebody put up a tweet, they sent it to me, where it had 3 or 4 schools, I think A&M, et cetera, Penn State, but that Baylor, I think, is very heavily involved in this decision. Are they still, at least in your opinion, in a position to be able to get what would be a tremendous pickup from him?
Right. I saw that tweet as well. Baylor is definitely involved in that recruitment. I actually think the list is pretty off. If I was kind of looking at it, it would be SMU, Penn State, and Baylor.
Okay.
Those would kind of be the 3 schools that I would be looking at, specifically Penn State. I think Penn State is probably the biggest competition for Baylor in landing him. I think that, this has been one of those situations that has happened really quickly, right? So you've kind of seen him kind of pick up steam over the last week because his best friend gave his pledge to the Bears. Once that happened, he got back in contact with the Baylor staff, and things have kind of trended in Baylor's direction since then. And I know Penn State has gotten a little nervous about it. I think other people are kind of starting to take notice of it as well, that Baylor really got themselves back in that race for, a 4-star prospect, the top, 300 player in the country, a guy with 50 offers. It's pretty crazy how Baylor is able to flip the script on him so quickly after the Kamari and Morgan decision. So, yes, Baylor is in it. I think that if I were kind of betting on it right now, I think it'll be Penn State or Baylor. And I really am torn. I'm probably 50-50 on it at this point. I think we'll know more heading into tomorrow when he decides. But the biggest thing here is things have happened so quickly, right, for Baylor. So they've had to make up a lot of ground in less than a week. And so I think the biggest thing is just I reported this week that he's going to take a visit at the end of July, and he set that before making this decision. So it's really going to come down to, is he really going to commit somewhere and then take a visit to Baylor, or was that more of a sign of, maybe his intention on what he's going to do with this decision? We'll see. It's going to happen tomorrow at 4 p.m. And like I said, I'm pretty split between Baylor and Penn State.
And looking around, it looks like all the other industry sites are as well, Grayson. There's nobody that's like, oh yeah, he's going here. It's all kind of very murky. So yeah, that's actually a recruitment that is very, very interesting. And man, what a huge win that would be for Baylor. You mentioned that you listened to all of Aranda's various interviews from around Media Day. The players were obviously doing their thing as well. What I guess did you gather that we haven't touched on, or what was of most interest to you from just hearing Aranda and company do their thing in Vegas?
I think one of the biggest things was just this idea of, I think it was mentioned multiple times, but guys turning from puppies into dogs. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have an article on that next week, but almost every person that y'all talk to, I feel like as far as players go, we're talking about this mentality of, getting back to competition, getting back to physicality, having the hunger to win, having the drive to push others, right? To push them to get better. I think there was a lot of complacency last year, and I'm not really sure why that was. They weren't great in 2022, but I think it was kind of probably lingering from what happened at the end of 2022, and it kind of just trickled over into 2023. And so it was kind of complacency by older guys, and then you had a lot of younger guys who weren't ready, right? They were still, young guys. And so now I think it's all about, the entire team just becoming dogs. As these guys have mentioned it, as guys have talked about, just this change of mindset, these transfers that they've brought in, bringing in a different mindset, a different level of physicality, and then older guys stepping up in their roles and younger guys really trying to take starting roles, come in and immediately take a starting role because they saw Caden Jenkins and Carl Williams do that a year ago. So I think that was kind of the other big thing that stood out to me, just that idea of kind of getting back to that physicality and competition. I think that was mentioned heavily, and something that honestly is very, very important for this program to get back.
Yeah, that's one of the things I came out of that as well, is that he said that quite a bit as far as there is competition at certain places, thank goodness, because they need that. One last thing, I asked him about whether or not he knew who his starting quarterback was, although they had not announced it like they did a couple of years ago with Shapen and Gary Bohannon. And so he said it's a fall competition. Do you believe that?
I do believe it. I do believe that it's a fall competition. I do believe that, they're going to give both these guys a shot. Do I also believe that Daquan Finn is going to be the starting quarterback at the end of the day? Yes, I do. I think that there's just something different that I believe he brings to the table. I feel like during Big 12 Media Days, a lot of the things that Dave Aranda said that they needed in a quarterback, I feel like Daquan Finn answers those. Whether it's turning a negative play into a positive play, whether it's, making plays with your feet, whether it's putting your team in really good situations, making plays when they aren't there. That's something that Daquan Finn does a really good job of. And I think based on what Dave Aranda said, it seems like it took Daquan Finn a little bit early on. And then towards the end, he kind of got going and really embraced the team, embraced Baylor, the culture at Baylor, what he needed to do at Baylor as far as a student athlete instead of just an athlete. Dave said they probably needed 2 more weeks. And in my eyes, him saying they needed 2 more weeks was kind of one of those things where it made my ears kind of perk up and go, well, it seems like, Finn was trending in that direction. And then if he had 2 more weeks, maybe he got to that point. So that's kind of me reading the tea leaves, but everything that I've heard or that I heard at Big 12 Media Days kind of continues to point me in the direction that Daquan Finn will be the starting quarterback. But I will also recognize that Sora Robertson has improved greatly, and in this scheme, he certainly seems to fit a lot better. And he's a guy who I think is definitely in Baylor's future plans as well.
Every team needs another one because, and I think that they wouldn't miss much of a beat, maybe slightly different styles. You hope that Quinn stays healthy and Sawyer stays healthy, whoever the starter is, because just look at around college football, it's an attritional thing too. Thanks for your time, Grayson. Have a great weekend. Great stuff on the Kamarian Morgan story, among others, as Baylor has been on a pretty good run. And as Dave Aranda told Craig, because we're paying players. And speaking of that, hold on just 1 second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to – okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, you go. No,
Here is something that we need to put out. And Garrett, thank you, and among others, and I think, Craig, you've caught this before. We don't tell people, we don't sit there and we have segments about what we've had and who we've had or whatever, but it's getting to the point in our business, and especially on social media, where people are lazy as hell. So this is from the website, College Football or whatever it's called.
PFF, Pro Football Focus.
Pro Football Focus. We know who owns that. Mm-hmm. And a picture of Dave Aranda on why Baylor's having success with recruiting with the quote, "We're paying players." Nowhere on there is there credit for what we had with Dave Aranda Wednesday. Now, we don't go around looking for this. Garrett saw this, and we've seen others who have done that, and Garrett's response was, that's cool, it's blown up and everything, but just give credit. Because if Pro Football Focus has something and we talk about it, you know what we do? We mention Pro Football Focus. It's lazy as hell, and it's not going to stop, but I wanted to make sure that we've had a few of those, and we've actually called a few people personally or text or direct message, hey, just give us credit. It was on our show.
Well,
it wasn't when he was in the podium.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the breakout section.
It was to us and us alone. Yeah.
And it would not have been out there had he not said it to us.
I had a very stern talk with somebody today about it. As a matter of fact, I did have a friend, and I felt bad for kind of snapping or being sarcastic with him, but he sent me the quote, one of those infographics, and his says, hey, will you guys ask him about this when you talk to him? And I was like, we did. He told that to us.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, really? I was like, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, I don't. I said, you know what? No problem. Got it. Done already.
Yeah, I mean, there was one account that I called out. It was one of those very generic CFB, fill in the blank. And there are a lot of those that are good and then that are quality. And then there's just I don't know, the types that run those that are, anonymous and just take other people's stuff and run with it as though they actually, had any hand whatsoever in creating that. The thing that really pisses me off, though, is if my name was Andy Staples, my name would have been on that graphic.
Absolutely.
If my name was Bruce Feldman, it would have been on that graphic. And that's the double standard that I think is just bullshit.
But it's not as if we're just some startup company on the corner.
No, and that's the thing.
Mobile station.
And that's why we're pushing back on it. It's because we know if it was from On3, then that would have been plastered. It would have been tattooed on the graphic, right? And I mentioned a couple of other examples of that as well, and we could go on and on with the examples. You know the names, you know the places, and so that's what's bothersome. I know that there's swagger jackers all over the internet nowadays, especially the anonymous ones. But I can understand and stomach that to an extent. But when it's very clear that it came from one place, and then you even follow up and you say hey, how about some shout out, and then people just suddenly that tweet 1,000 times a day suddenly aren't answering the phone, kind of a thing. I just think that's garbage. I think that's garbage behavior. I think that's unprofessional. And I appreciate Garrett saying that. I'm not out here looking for attention. I just want us to get credit where credit's due. It's simple as that. If it's going to go viral and be talked about everybody, we take stuff from people all the time, but we credit them when we get it. And we say hey, this is where that came from. And so that's what bothers me about it. I know there's no changing it. But maybe if we rattle the cage a little bit, and we did, and it did change some things, actually, at some pretty big companies that cover college football that tried to take it and make it their own, and then had little clarifications that you can see for yourself. So, good on them for owning up to it, but there's just a lot of anonymity, and I don't want to do the whole, you're in mom's basement and you're 20 years old, but you get that vibe from it, or just very immature, people that are older that should know better. And so we're going to continue to do it the right way. But, yeah, just be wary of those people who just aggregate and take stuff and never give any credit, because that's just a very shallow way of covering the sport.
Especially when somebody tweeted it out, the quote, and then on top of that, tagged about 25 people within their own organization. All that did was spread it, and we took care of that one. Okay, it's very simple. You get information from somewhere. We start every show with all sorts of different graphics and images and tweets, and it's from the person or the company that is also the one who is reporting the news or whatever story or statistic it might be. When we come back, John Hoover covers Oklahoma on the story of them bringing in the former administrator with the Philadelphia Eagles as things change in college athletics. Also, we'll check in today with Neil Welk from CUBuffs.com. He was at Media Days up in Vegas, and his thoughts about how Dion and the entourage of players and everyone else and what he saw and heard during that time. We got a lot to get to. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com, Central Texas Marketplace on the southern part of Waco off I-35. Dr. Rob Maxey and his company is phenomenal. Two things that you want when you go get an MRI. You want to make sure the pictures, the images of whatever they're taking it of, your abdomen, lower back, your knee, your shoulder, wherever they're getting an image or whatever they're trying to find is clear as a bell and perfect so that doctors can sit there and look at them and go, oh, okay, there's the issue, or, it's not there, so maybe it's something else. That's why you get an MRI. So information can be dissected, digested by your orthopedic surgeon or doctor. Number two, it's going to cost money. Hospitalization, health cost, it's going to cost you some money. But the average MRI is $1,100, and there's $497 or less every single time. Never higher. It can be lower because they'll file also insurance papers if you want. It's IdealMRI.com, an ideal way to get what you need when it comes to imaging and saving money at IdealMRI.com.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoke. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered.
We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION Solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
365 Sports, we continue on with this early part of the 4 o'clock hour. John Hoover, SI.com. Sooners Nation will join us in a moment. Please click the like and subscribe button if you don't mind. And join the party, be a part of what we are and what we do. And, it's always nice when you hit a threshold, and we're at nearly 3,000 subscribers now. And that's like just a week or so since we went past the barrier. Oh, by the way, speaking of which, where's the keg stand?
I've arranged for the beer, or I've started to arrange for the beer. It'll be next week when we can get the beer delivered.
I'm starting to wonder.
Oh, don't wonder. I'm doing that.
Okay.
Doing that.
Can you do the guest here?
I'm waiting for him to call me.
Okay. Garrett, are you going to do this keg stand? I know I'm not going to do it, and Craig's not going to do it.
I don't even know the last time I did a keg stand. It was probably like in a cornfield in the 90s. I might give it a try.
Those pasture parties?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Emery's going to do one. We know that.
When we got back the first night, can I tell the story about Emery walking down to the corner store and bringing back a 12-pack of – is he 21?
Well, you just did, so can you tell the story that you just told?
So he and Jack come walking. They start walking out. I'm going to go get us our pizza. And then a couple other things, and I see them walking down the street.
Hey, John.
And then the next thing you know, they're in the kitchen tossing down Busch. Beer, by the way.
He got Busch?
He went and got Busch.
We got to pay Emery some more money.
I know. All right, we're not joined by John Hoover, does a great job covering Oklahoma, and with us from SI.com. John, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. I want to make sure before we say goodbye to you that we get into your trip to Alaska and all the things that you saw. I thought that was really, really cool. But let's start with this. Oklahoma looks like they're trying to be the leading edge here, and something that seems like it makes a lot of sense on the general manager of whatever they're going to do, who's a part of that Philadelphia Eagles franchise. So how did all this come about?
Yeah, it's interesting, Smokey and Paul. Thanks for having me on. It is interesting because Oklahoma has, with a lot of things, whether it's compliance going back to the mid 2000s, or some of the stuff Lincoln Riley was doing in terms of social media, and then what Oklahoma is doing now with under Brent Venables' staff, just in terms of recruiting. What's interesting is they are recruiting. They're changing the recruiting structure. What? After 40 years or 50 years, and of course Barry Switzer, famous recruiter, right? But maybe one of the best to ever do it. But Oklahoma's out front now. They're doing this thing where they're going to have a general manager, and the GM is Curtis Lofton, former Sooner linebacker, played for Brent Venables. And they're partnering with a former Philadelphia Eagles vice president named Jake Rosenberg. And what Jake Rosenberg is going to do, he's going to guide them through these early years of NIL, transfer portal, certainly where they're at right now with paying players. They're going to have to, according to court decisions, they're going to have to pay players retroactively. Well, now they're going to have to start paying them at some point in the very near future as they're on their roster. So they brought a guy in from the NFL level who's got a lot of NFL experience with the Eagles to come in and say, here's how and he's not like employed by the university. He's just a consultant, but they're basically retaining a consulting firm to kind of guide them through the early stages of how all this is going to work, because none of us who have done this, Smokey, for forever, like you and me, know how this is going to work. And I would anticipate that there's going to be mistakes made, but here's the deal. OU is going to be the first one to make a lot of those mistakes and kind of set the industry standard for what to do and what not to do.
How much do you think it will be similar to the NFL, and what has to be different?
It's interesting. In the NFL, the general manager has a completely different role than the head coach. But would you say, generally speaking, the general manager is above the head coach?
Sort of.
No, in every professional sport that I know, the general manager makes the decisions and sometimes hires the head coach.
Right, exactly. So in this case, the general manager is going to be a key liaison. He's going to be one of those voices that Brent Venables values, right? He's going to say, okay, Curtis, we're here today to talk about the 2027 class. Who do you got for me? And Curtis Lawson, the general manager, then the meeting will turn over to him, I assume, at some point, and they'll, start talking about the 2027 class and the prospects that he likes and the coaches that he's touched base with in high school in Texas. And here's what he thinks, and here's what he thinks they need, and here's who he thinks they can retain in 2026. Oh, and then there's the transfer portal we got to consider, so we can't be too heavy on 2027 class, freshman class. All that stuff is coming in there together, and Brent Venables, head coach, CEO, right, is going to be the guy who ultimately makes that call. We think, right? I mean, no one's ever had one of these before. No one's ever done one of these before. So there's a handful of questions that you would probably want to know for sure before you take this on full speed. And OU will figure it out. Under Joe Castiglione, they figure everything out. But one of the questions is, who's actually the boss? Who makes the official offer, to the high school kid or to the transfer portal kid? And does this mean, guys, here's the question I would have, and it'll never be answered, but does this mean coaches' salaries, which have been escalating, like a downhill train for the past 20 years, is that going to slow down a little bit, escalating with coach salary? Are the coaches going to basically, in some form or fashion, going to have to take a pay cut if they're answering to or sharing the job with a general manager? I don't know.
Because you have the salary cap or whatever you want to call it with players, revenue sharing. Now there's another $5 or $6 million guy.
It's coming for someone, right? That they're going to try to make more money other avenues, John. But wouldn't you think that when they say, especially at a lot of schools, well, okay, you can have a $2 million defensive coordinator, but we can't pay you $14 million anymore.
To the head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the $6 million quarterback?
Yeah, exactly. Like all
right?
those different. Yeah.
Yeah. So this era of college football, we keep saying it every day, every week. It's unprecedented, and it's uncharted waters. We don't know what's coming around the corner.
John Craig here, and I'm admittedly a big Oklahoma fan, have been my whole life. And Curtis Lofton, just hear that name brings back such great memories of what an incredible player he was. Where was his place in this from the beginning? Why Curtis Lofton, and just sort of his background into finding him in this position, helping manage the roster, working with the GM, and all of those sorts of things?
Yeah, so Curtis was an All-American, went to the NFL draft after his junior year, and then played 8 years for the Atlanta Falcons. I think he had something like 1,000 career tackles or something like that. So he had a great NFL career. He gets out. He comes back to the state of Oklahoma. Goes to, I think he went to, I wrote a story about it about 5 years ago, small college in Oklahoma City, Central Oklahoma, UCO. I think he got his business administration degree, and just been kind of looking for an opportunity. When Brent Venables returned, his linebackers coach from back in the day, right? Brent Venables comes back and says, hey, we're expanding our staff. That's one of the things that Joe Castiglione didn't really want Lincoln Riley to do. Lincoln said, hey, if we're going to join the SEC, I'm going to need a bigger staff. And they were like, do you really need a bigger staff? Well, they did, and he does. And Brent Venables got a bigger staff, and one of the positions that he got was a director or assistant director of the SOUL mission, SOUL, serving others through uncommon leadership or something like that. It's some acronym. But it's a player outreach program. It's a player enrichment program. They take them around. They take them on mission trips, and they do local food banks and charities and stuff like that. So they do a lot of. Curtis was the guy who was basically I think they had 4 guys doing basically almost the same job or a variation of the same job. And Curtis was one of those 4 guys. And since about January or February, we've known that they're trying to create this position for him, bargaining with, administration, Joe Castiglione and whatnot, to create this position of general manager. And Joe C. signed off on it.
John Hoover with us, SI.com, in this new position. And so now you're going to have this general manager type structure, the head coach and his staff. And then on top of that, there's also all the recruiting analysts. Will they go and be in communication with Lofton? And I know they might have a lot of meetings, but I think one of the things that happens too much are too many meetings. How's that little structure work?
Can you imagine how many meetings they're going to have?
Oh, dear Lord.
Meetings for meetings, John.
They just brought a former player back, Jeremiah Cradell, as the assistant to the assistant cornerbacks coach. They have a cornerbacks coach, and then he has 2 assistants that work for him. So that's how many meetings they're going to have. The assistants are going to have a meeting, and they're going to report to the CV coach, and the CV coach is going to go to the defensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator is going to go to the general manager, and the general manager is going to go to the athletic director, and they're going to go and say, okay, let's have a meeting.
Well, all that
what
extra
a nightmare.
All that extra SEC money's got to go somewhere, right, John?
It's got to pay something. That's right. That's exactly right. It just means more. It just means more coaches.
Yeah.
John, Dylan Gabriel was listed as a Heisman favorite by one sports book today. I'm a little curious on that. And look, he was very good at Oklahoma, had great moments, but he and Will Howard kind of in a similar position in that they're both pushed out for the next wave. How do you, again, in this new era of college football, kind of balance that out?
Oh, I don't know how you balance it out. This is one of the things when Lincoln was here, I asked him over the course of his 5 seasons, I must have asked him this a couple of times. How do you plan for who the quarterback's going to be in 2026 when you haven't signed you haven't committed a 2025 quarterback yet, which in Oklahoma's case they have. But in this particular case, you've got a 24 who's a transfer, and you've got a 23 who I thought I was going to be the starter, and you've got a 22 who's looking to get out. How do you keep all that straight? It's got to be impossible. So, yeah, Dylan, we saw last year how when he's healthy, how capable he is. He's really good, especially, you put him in a clutch situation like that, right, down at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, and all he does is drive him 90 yards for the game-winning touchdown, and then he's got to go. You got a guy that comes in, a left-handed quarterback, starts 2 years, and after his 2 years are up, he's got to go. Because why? Because they signed a 5-star quarterback in Jackson Arnold, and he's the future. And they've already anointed him on signing day that he's the face of the program. He's the future face of the program. So, yeah, if you're Dylan Gabriel, you're looking for greener pastures, and in this case, it's 100% green, Oregon.
We need that Oregon-Oklahoma playoff matchup in the expanded CFP coming up this year.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of that, John, SEC Media Day starts next week, Monday, right? I believe a 4-day event, and in Dallas at the Omni, downtown proper Dallas. Obviously, I'm sure you're going to have or have already had articles, talking about the biggest topics, but what is kind of on your mind entering next week and getting a chance to hear from Brent Venables and company, and also just see the scene that is the SEC with Oklahoma in it?
Yeah, the big question is Oklahoma SEC ready? And July 1st, whether they were ready or not, July 1st they were in the SEC. So I think Oklahoma did it right. They threw several big 2-day long bash parties on campus and in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City. So the fan base is sincerely jacked up about it. So I think the fans are ready. I think the team, for the most part, is ready. I don't know about, we're talking about expanding the coaching staff, and we're talking about new facilities on campus that are still in the planning phases. The football program, is trying its best to get SEC ready. I'm sure that'll be a topic that Brent Venables has to answer. It's interesting, too. You guys know this because of all the history in the Big 12. Texas has been on a heater lately, right? The last couple of years. They blitzed Oklahoma 49-0, and then they lose to Oklahoma. But what do? They win the Big 12 and go to the playoffs. Right now, the national media, which can also be construed as the SEC media. They're looking at Texas. Yeah, they're looking at Texas and they're saying, "Oh my God, Texas is so amazing, you guys! Texas is unbelievable." And then you got guys like Josh Pate. We've seen it sprinkled out throughout the media in the past couple of weeks, who come out and say, "Wait a minute! In the past decade, Oklahoma's got a winning record against Texas. In the past 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades, Oklahoma has a winning record against Texas, has a better winning percentage, has more championships, more draft choices, more All-Americans, more Heisman Trophy winners, right? More national championships." And people are like, "Wait a minute, when did this start?" And you guys know in Waco, and we know here in Oklahoma, it's been that way for a while.
Always. So, that's when it started. Always.
Texas is kind of the darling right now of the SEC and the media and all that, but who knows what the future is going to look like.
Well, and they were really good last year, but you're right, Oklahoma beat them in that incredible finish.
Well,
and
Oklahoma's bad also, John, and guys, has not been as bad as Texas's bad was. And
that's right.
Except in the 90s.
Yeah.
90s, yeah.
But well, particularly recently, which is what matters more, right?
No.
When you're talking about everything, this is new Texas. More recent Texas was a disaster.
It was a 10-year floating. And think about the team that even when Baylor won the Big 12 title, what was it in 21? Oklahoma almost played in that game. It was like almost a rematch, was it not, against Oklahoma State?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they've run the conference. They ran the conference. There were some great runs by Mac, et cetera. But it was interesting that they picked the last year to have not their best team, because they had 3 or 4 in the 2000s that were great. But, I think the perception is there. I think they're going to be really, really good. It does seem like they're loaded just the right time. Craig, anything else? So what area? What is the Achilles? What is the weakness of this Oklahoma football team?
It's got to be offensive line.
Great.
They graduated all 5 guys either to the NFL or just graduation, and they replaced them with actually 6 transfer portal guys. They got a couple of guys back who were fill-in guys or guys who were spot starters last year. But yeah, they have rebuilt the offensive line completely. They have 0 starts returning from last year. And as you know, man, when you see some offensive lines that have a 90 career starts combined, 100 career starts combined, 130 sometimes. Oklahoma has 0. So however they're going to try and paint Jackson Arnold, and they've got one of the best wide receiver cores in the country, and their running backs are really, really talented. Who's going to be blocking for all those guys? That's the big question.
How can that be? How can they get to that point? I know they had the one kid. Did he go to Missouri? That was a really good player, offensive lineman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, he went to Missouri, shockingly. So,
well, good news, John, is it's not like a bunch of big D linemen in the SEC. They'll be fine. No worries.
How hard could it be, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I will say though, and not trying to spin it too positively, but if there was a position where you thought like a coach could sit there and make the most out of it, wouldn't it be Bill Bedenbaugh in that offensive line room? I mean, I'm not expecting the world here, but if somebody could make that a positive somehow, it seems like it would be him given his track record.
Yeah, he loves the underdog role. He loves taking 3-star guys that nobody wanted, turning them into first-round draft picks and NFL career guys. So, yeah, he absolutely loves it, relishes it, gets guys to believe that they're underdogs in all situations. So, and then he yells at them and coaches them up. It's big time.
Well, at least their schedule's easy.
Schedule, again, how hard could it be?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Welcome to the SEC.
I've never heard of Gorga.
Yeah, Gorga.
Yeah, I've never heard of him.
Isn't that a dog?
Yeah.
Hey, man, John, great. Thanks for jumping on. Hope you have a great weekend. Have fun. I know you will in Dallas, and pick your brain maybe at some point after it's all done. Thanks for your time.
I'm still thawing out from my trip to Alaska.
Oh, no, let's do that. So you went to Alaska. Did you didn't – I know you didn't snow ski there. Tell us about your trip. How long did it take to get there? Was it a cruise or was it a drive? Tell us about it.
I drove that bad boy all 4,000 miles, and I drove 4,000 miles back. And while I was there, I drove another 2,000 miles. So, it took 5 days to get there, 5.5 to get back. But it was worth it. I don't know what you'd call it, a midlife crisis, just a need to go see family. I went by myself. So it was solo the whole time. I was solo the whole time in the car.
What was the longest stretch that you drove in one day?
27 hours on day one. I went from Tulsa to Glacier National Park in northwestern Montana.
You saw 32 bears. What you might have said?
Yeah.
You might have seen
more beer than bear.
32 bears. In fact, you even described in your tweet. You even saw a bear eating a deer.
Yes, we're about 25 feet away from this bear on the side of the road, just chowing down on a deer.
All right,
Pretty
so
cool.
here's all: alpine lakes, glaciers, and raging rivers, a caribou. That's cool.
My first, number 9, yep.
Midnight sun on the tundra.
Yep.
Moose racing your car.
Yeah, I was driving along. It was about 2 in the morning, and I saw this moose, and he took off running with me. And I was like driving 40 miles an hour, and there he was.
Conversing with crows while they eat bugs off my bumper.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. Crows are incredibly smart.
Would have been a great TikTok video.
I got a video of it.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. I got a video of everything.
Dozens of waterfalls, which I can't even imagine is how clean and beautiful and pristine all that is.
Yep.
Thousands of miles of snowy mountains. The Arctic Ocean.
Mm-hmm. That was a highlight.
The Milky Way in pitch black Nebraska.
I've never seen the dark sky like I saw in northwestern Nebraska, man. It was unbelievable.
There's only about 7 times a year when it's lit up, and that's when Nebraska's playing a home game.
Right.
And then the 30, you said, is it honorable mention you saw Dave Winfield?
I did, yeah. He's a Fairbanks gold panner. You remember the old Alaska League baseball, minor league or semi-pro baseball? He's a legend. Played there 71 and 72, and he hit a 550-foot home run to win the Midnight Sun game, which is a world-famous game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they built a statue to him. They put up Dave Winfield's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's played for 5 or 6 major league teams. He has no statues, but the Fairbanks Gold Panners put one up of it. It was amazing.
And when everyone brings up Bo Jackson or Dion or whoever, Jim Thorpe, as the greatest athlete of all time, his name doesn't get mentioned enough.
It's top 5 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Played only player. No, he's one of 4 players drafted in 4 different professional sports leagues.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
A mountain of a man. Thank you for your time, John. Have a great week. Get some decompression this weekend. And then, because once the media days, which ours was in Vegas for 2 or 3 days, and once that starts, there's no stopping. Thank you, buddy. John Hoover, Oklahoma, covers Oklahoma, covers all of Oklahoma for SI.com.
Yeah, good to talk with John. It was a nice chat about all things Sooners, and I do feel confidence that Bill Bedenbaugh can try to make the most out of that offensive line. But, yeah, that's not a position that you really want to have a great amount of turnover, which they do heading into a league like the SEC. Besides that, I think there's a lot to like about the team. I do think they're being a little bit under-respected and underrated. I don't think that I'm putting the bets down for them to win the SEC in year number 1 or even play for the title necessarily, but I do think that there's a better than strong chance that Oklahoma is going to be Oklahoma and is going to be toe-to-toe with pretty much everybody that they come across. And history says that outside of a period in the 90s will, be the case and has been the case for them for the most part. So
yeah, and people forget that. And who they were 2 years ago was the exception.
And I'm worried about it. I mean, I'm worried about just going from double-digit win seasons practically every year to what this looks like. But there's also an expanded playoff, so things are just going to be different. And I still think there will be years where they reach those double digits. I mean, that was a really nice year they had last year. I just think it was overshadowed by the fact Texas had the year that they had and ended up in the playoff and as Big 12 champions, even though Oklahoma beat them. So, I'm very curious to see how this translates into the new league and with the schedule that they have, which is really tough, but it has some really fun games. It's going to be an awesome year to watch unfold.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes people forget that they beat UT, and it was a phenomenal game. It's a shocking ending, really. Like people forget that TCU beat Michigan. But Oklahoma's beaten Texas a lot in the last 15 years, quite a bit. We're now joined by Neil Welky, covers Colorado, CUBuffs.com. I saw him at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. And, of course, Colorado was there on Wednesday with Dion and many others. Thanks for your time. We do appreciate it, Neil. What did you take out of all that you heard, what was said to you, what you asked, what were some of the answers, or just that day for Colorado and Vegas?
Specifically for Colorado, I think they're going to be a team that's going to compete in the Big 12. I'm not going to say they're going to win a championship. I'm not going to say that they're going to run the table or anything like that, but I think they have made enough improvements where they needed to. I think they've got one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. I think they have a great skill, some very good skill players, including Travis Hunter, last year's Horning Award winner. And I think there's enough there to make them competitive in a conference that, I'd love for you to tell me who's going to win it, because I honestly don't know.
Pick a team, Neil.
Yeah.
They got a chance to win this bad boy. It sure seems like.
It does. It's just such a balanced conference. There's, it's different. Colorado's been in the Pac-12 the last, 13 years. And before that in the Big 12. And they always played in a conference where there were some elite teams, whether it was Nebraska, Texas, Oklahoma, when they were in the Big 8 and the Big 12, then they move on to the Pac-12 and they've got USC, and Washington was really, really good. Went to the playoffs a couple of years. Oregon was really good. USC. Right now, I don't see an elite team in the Big 12 like that, but I see 6, 7, 8 teams that could be really good and do some damage when they do get to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the way we all agree. We went over our rankings, our preseason rankings, and we talked about it for hours. We could talk about it for more hours. Paul?
Neil, do you see this offensive and defensive line being better enough to the point where Shedeur Sanders might have time to do things and not just make up things on the fly?
You mean run for his life on every play?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Shedeur Sanders got sacked 52 times last year. About most of any quarterback in the nation. He got chased out of the pocket, 4 or 5, 6 more times a game. Got hit, 8 or 10 more times a game. I think they've made some solid improvements up front. Is it a great offensive line? No. But this is not an offensive line that's going to try and bulldoze people. They're not going to try and line up and just run it down people's throat and run them over. They have to give him enough time to throw the ball. He's great creating out of the pocket. He's great freelancing back there. I think it's a good enough line that he'll have time to be consistent and be successful on a week-in, week-out basis. The question to me still is, there's a couple questions. Colorado's defensive line, I think they made some big improvements. They got a transfer from Arizona State named B.J. Green, who's preseason all-conference. They added some other big bodies up front. But I still think Colorado's probably going to have to outscore people. I think they've got a much better chance at doing that this year than they did a year ago.
Neil, you brought up the 13 years in the Pac-12, and there was the Big 12. I mean, basically dancing on their grave in Las Vegas, a home site for the Pac-12 at Allegiant Stadium, and it's kind of dawned on me at one point when they were strolling through, but there is that history of the Big 12. Just what did it kind of feel like to see them in the new yet old league and, coming across familiar teams from recent history, but also some of those that they used to dance with back in the day?
Yeah, I grew up in Colorado. I grew up as a Big 8 guy. I mean, I grew up watching the Big 8. I grew up, then they went to the Big 12. And so I've always had, an affinity for that conference, going clear back. And when they merged with the Southwest Conference or took 4 teams, whatever you want to call it, I enjoyed that league tremendously. I always thought it was a lot of fun. I just thought it was a great conference. It's going to be interesting without Oklahoma and Texas. I freely admit that, when the last time Colorado was in the Big 12, they also had Nebraska there, never mind Missouri and Texas A&M. So it's obviously going to be a different conference, but I still think there's a feeling for, some of the old farts like me that Colorado's coming home to a degree. They're going back to kind of where they belong in that Big 12 rather than the Pac-12. Pac-12 was great. I have no complaints. It was a lot of fun. Great travel conference. I mean, you got to go to Tempe in the wintertime. You got to go to Tucson, Southern California, the Bay Area. But as far as just a competitive league that I think they belong in, the Big 12, it's kind of like coming home for them.
Neil, we have had even some coaches that we've had on the show of the teams that have joined the Big 12. have mentioned the passion of the fan bases throughout the Big 12. Now, there's some places that don't have 60,000 or more. There's those stadiums. Baylor, TCU, there's some stadiums that just don't have the larger stadiums. A lot of it's the size of their school as well. But they mentioned that. Did you see that? I know that USC has history. Oregon, Washington. There's some place. Washington State on the road is hard. But is that something you've kind of heard too, that moving into a conference where across the board, no matter the size of the school or the stadium or attendance, that is all football?
I think that's what that gets a lot of people excited about going back to the Big 12. I mean, and again, the Pac-12 was good for Colorado in a lot of reasons. I think it's great that they're going back to the Big 12. But there were a lot of times you would go to, and I'm going to start picking on schools, and if somebody hears this, I'm going to get, you go to an Arizona in 2015, 16, when they were okay but not great. There'd be 25, 30,000 people in the stands. The students would kind of be there, but maybe not if there was a big party going on somewhere else. There were other places like that. Oregon State had its ups and downs. Washington, when they went south under Jimmy Lake, their fan base kind of pooped away really quickly. Cal was never an exciting place to play. Stanford, man, I've been at Stanford when there might have been 15 or 20,000 people in the stands, and you couldn't tell. I mean, there were just not that many people there. So I don't know of a place in the Big 12 that Colorado was going to go that is not going to be an exciting, packed place to see Colorado play. And they're not going to come just to see Deion. They're not going to come to see the Buffaloes. But, you talk about Baylor and TCU having smaller stadiums. Man, I tell you what, Colorado went to TCU last year. That stadium was just rocking. And so I think there's a lot of excitement about that just about everywhere you go in the Big 12. And a place like Kansas, I'm sorry to ramble on here, that was a place that was dead 10 years ago. Now, you could go to Kansas and see more people at Midnight Madness than you saw in the stadium. But that's not the case anymore. You go to KU this year, you're going to see a jam-packed stadium and people getting excited about football. So, yeah, I think there's across the board, top to bottom, there's probably more passion for football in the Big 12 and basketball as well.
What have you gotten from players that may have left the program about why it didn't work out with them and Coach Prime?
What I hear from them is just that they wanted a different place to play. Coach Prime came to Colorado a year ago, a year and a half ago, and they rebuilt the roster from top to bottom. Probably, players that weren't going to be higher level Division I players, but they thought could maybe fill the gap. And I think you're going to just start seeing that more and more everywhere. They're taking kids, they're bringing them in, and if they don't work out, the door's open and they're headed out they're headed out the next year and looking for greener pastures, maybe looking for a little NIL. They lost a really good running back who went to Kansas State. Dylan Edwards scored 3 touchdowns against TCU last year, 3 or 4. And had a great game against TCU. Was one of the big, difference makers in that game. Didn't quite, see what he wanted to see this year. They brought in a couple other running backs. He was a little bit homesick, so he went back home to Kansas, and now he's at Kansas State. So I think there are a variety of reasons for why guys leave, and I think it's probably the same story just about every school you go to. But Colorado's been under the microscope because Deion did it so differently when he got here. And now it's, I think it's becoming more and more common, and I think it will be less as the program stabilizes and they get more kids in that are going to stay and be here and the kids that they want. So I think that'll start to go down a little bit.
Neil, when it comes to Colorado, and by the way, on that, Dylan Edwards, and I was trying to search out where he did that, the outlet that he did the interview where he talked about why he decided to leave. With somebody,
yeah.
And then Deion, and I'll find out who that was from so we can properly credit them. Yeah. But Deion had a great response. So, yeah, it's not all like bad blood, right? Like the Dylan Edwards situation was great. And so I think that was very, very cool to see that video and see that explained that way. But when it comes to Colorado, there is so much noise about the head coach, about the quarterback, about the dual, star offensive, defensive talent in Travis Hunter and so on. What are people missing in all of that noise about Colorado heading into 2024 that you think is of particular interest?
To me, what I'm very curious to see, and this is I don't know what's going to happen. In all honesty, he redid the coaching staff. Mm-hmm. They brought in a lot of new players. They brought in, they've got some great players. They've got a couple first-round draft picks in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. They brought in a lot, more new players. I think their talent is greatly improved. To me, one of the, and I don't want to say even question mark, but something I'm really curious to see what happens is this coaching staff. He remade the coaching staff again. It's a new offensive coordinator. Pat Shurmur, who has been in the NFL forever and is now, works very closely with Shedeur Sanders, and he's the offensive coordinator. They brought in a defensive coordinator who has never been a coordinator. He was a very good, successful defensive back coach with the Cincinnati Bengals, Robert Livingston, but he's never been a coordinator. How's he going to call a game in college football where every week is totally different? Mm-hmm. When you're in the NFL, you know what you're going to see next week. You've got a pretty good idea. I mean, people do different things, and if you're seeing a Mahomes or you're seeing a Dak Prescott, something like that, you're seeing different guys and different schemes, but it's still fairly similar week in, week out in the NFL. College football is not that way. So I'm really anxious to see how Robert Livingston adapts as a defensive coordinator in that regard. They've got a new offensive line coach. Never been an offensive line coach before. He's been a grad assistant, been an analyst, never been an on-the-field coach. A guy named Phil Lodeholt. Had good NFL career, but how's he going to react? They got a new defensive line coach. They got new linebackers coaches. So there's a lot there that I'm just curious to see how that all adjusts and how that all happens on game day, because we know that game day adjustments are huge in college football.
Neil, last question. So I'm sorry.
Sure.
Go, yeah, the last question.
No.
They had an unbelievable start with the win against TCU. Then they beat Nebraska. They had that phenomenal game that ended like at 2:00 in the morning here against Colorado State. That was just unbelievable. It was incredible theater.
Yes.
If they start, they have North Dakota State, which is no gimme, and Dion mentioned that. Nebraska, you would think, is better. But if they start and go 3-0, 4-0, but it's not against someone who just played for the national title, will it get crazy again? The expectations? Okay.
No. If they start 3-0 or 4-0, I think Baylor's their Big 12 opener.
Right.
If they start 4-0, they'll be ranked in the top 25 because Dion will be out there every week. Coach Prime will be telling people, "Hey, look at us. Look, believe in us. I told you to believe in us. I told you we were going to be good." And so I think, to me, the most important game on that schedule right now is Nebraska. I think they beat North Dakota State. I don't think it's easy. They know that. That coaching staff is well aware of what North Dakota State's going to be bringing to Boulder. The following week they go to Lincoln. They have beaten Nebraska, I think, 3 times in a row now.
You don't have to bring that up. I'm a lifelong Huskers fan, but go ahead.
Well, okay. Well, yeah. Sorry about that, but
no, I'm joking.
And I tell you what, I guarantee you, Trev Alberts, left there not happy with what's going on, and I guarantee you the new AD and I guarantee you Matt Rule are aiming toward that game.
Yeah,
that is for both programs. I think that is a swing game that could decide the trajectory of an entire season for 2 programs.
I agree. It was the game against Nebraska when Scott Frost made his much-anticipated debut in Lincoln where they could not convert on the first down late in the game with the ball around the Colorado 45, and they were stopped short. Martinez, I think, fumbled, and, a long pass down the sideline to the kid who came out of Texas. Yeah,
Laviska Shenault. Stephen Montez heaved it. Not quite a Hail Mary, but it was he was looking to the Lord for a little help and landed right in Laviska's lap, and they won that game. And then the year later, Nebraska came to Boulder, and they threw a flea flicker, a 96-yard flea flicker, for crying out loud. They're down by 10 at the half.
Yep, absolutely.
So there's a lot of memories there from Nebraska, and I do think that game goes a long way in deciding how both teams go this season.
Thanks for your time. Really good stuff, Neil. Thank you very much.
Anytime. I appreciate the call.
Neil,
you guys take care.
Welk of CUBuffs.com
with a perspective on Colorado coming off the media days in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it was fun to see the Prime effect there in Vegas and just kind of the attention that brings with it. But, it was just cool to see the whole crew roll out and, take the podiums and mingle and mix with all the other Big 12 schools. And, yeah, I mean, he definitely has that it factor, and so do his sons. And it's easy to see there in person. And so you hope that is just something that can maintain a level of success that continuously brings eyeballs throughout the year and not just for the first month of the season. And I know even when they were losing, they were still getting respectable numbers and whatnot. But that first month of the season, they were the most talked about team in all of college football, basically. And if you're Brett Yormark,
overshadowing everything.
Yeah, if you're Brett Yormark, you hope that they can somehow replicate that and then just build on it to where it's a couple of months or 2.5 months of the season, they're bringing you big money ratings. But I wanted to credit Cats Talk by Wildcat NIL, the K-State NIL YouTube page. Cats Talk, they were the ones that had the interview Curry Sexton did with Dylan Edwards. And Dylan Edwards had a great soundbite in there talking about his decision to leave Colorado, how he talked to Shedeur about it, and how he, eventually came to the conclusion to just get back closer to home, and how they were very understanding. It wasn't a bad blood thing. It's all love. And he got very emotional talking about it because he talked about how his family lived in Dallas growing up and that that's when they first met Dion. And he was a part of a youth football team, and they got to know each other then. And so there's some family ties there, and it was just really cool, really real, I guess is the best way to put it, and authentic stuff from Dylan Edwards, who's now very happy to be at K-State. But obviously it was, a little hard to leave Colorado, and it's definitely not something the media maybe Dylan Edwards leaving Colorado, Dion's losing control. It's like, no, if you really listen to Dylan Edwards break it down, it's like it's all good on either side.
And what Kleiman told us about the process, too.
Yeah, and Chris Kleiman explained it from their standpoint. So, yeah, it's not as headline-y as you might imagine. I also mentioned, shout out to Cats Talk by Wildcat NIL for that Dylan Edwards interview. But also I saw where Colorado just sold out of season tickets for the second year in a row. They finally sold out their game against Cincinnati, and so I believe that gives them 2 straight sellouts of season tickets, and so that's a great thing to see as well. And that's also the Prime effect, the Shedeur, Shiloh, Travis Hunter effect. And again, you just hope if you're Colorado and if you're the Big 12 and anybody who else stands to benefit from their star power, you hope that can just continue and if anything, magnify.
Well, those big ratings busters that they had last year early on and even later, even when they started their slide.
And just entertaining games,
man. Use some of that juice.
Like that Colorado State game was off the charts crazy.
I can still remember a lot of plays in that game, and I can't remember what I ate for lunch today.
Probably the game where Kansas State was like, we need to go talk to that Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, and Torrey Horton guys. Yeah.
All right, Billy Embody around the top of the hour. We have some breaking news, or at least possibly. We'll have Billy Embody. He covers SMU. His thoughts about the heater that they're on that use that term is they've been on a hell of a run, and the ACC and all that joining them is a big deal and helping them out along with the NIL. Paul?
Yeah, according to Joseph Duarte, Oliver Luck is a candidate for the open Houston AD job. And we haven't heard Oliver Luck's name bandied about in job searches for the last couple of years. But, a lot of people thought that he was going to be the commissioner of the Big 12 instead of Brett Yormark. There was that. I mean, he's been at the NCAA. He's been a lot of different places. He's been in Houston for a large portion of his life. Former Oilers quarterback, as a matter of fact, and father of Andrew Luck. So that would be interesting to see.
All right, we're gonna probably get him on. We'll probably go through Houston, and we'll have him on when he gets the 80s job.
Yeah, he's just a candidate or name to watch, is what Joseph's saying.
That doesn't tinkle. That doesn't tingle me anyway.
Oh, well,
what?
Doesn't
it didn't make me tinkle is what everything else does.
Everything else after your surgery seems to, but
We finally have to admit the reason I'm closer to the restroom is because I need to be. But that did not fire me up.
I mean, maybe it doesn't. But, one of the things at Houston, you serve 2 masters. there are two athletic directors there, or two bosses
Tillman
there.
Fertitta,
and the actual athletic director, or the president and Tillman Fertitta.
Couture, yeah.
Yeah, so you have that, and then if you're the football coach, then you have three masters as opposed to two.
Well, until they get a general manager.
Yeah,
then
and
you'll have 4.
Yeah, who knows? But, no, the general manager at Houston is always Tillman Fertitta.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking Tillman Fertitta, but it is something Oliver Luck, for the most part, has pretty successful dealings with guys like Tillman Fertitta, Vince McMahon notwithstanding on that one. But Vince's track record is not just Oliver Luck who's pissed off. So
yeah, no, I mean, that was failed XFL 2.0. They had a falling out where Oliver was a big part of that, like basically the president. I don't know what the exact titles were, but yeah, he and Vince had a falling out that resulted in a lawsuit. And I don't remember even where that ended up, to be honest with you. I kind of just lost track of that in the aftermath of it. But, I mean, he was a guy who played a big role in a lot of different things. I mean, he's been part of the playoff. He obviously was at West Virginia when they made the move to the Big 12, when they hired Dana Holgerson. He's been a part of the XFL. He's played a consultant role in the Big 12 in the past, I think at various times, right? Like, I mean, his name just seems to pop up like every year and a half or 2 years in some capacity. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that gets you like crazy over the moon, but I don't know what AD hires would really get me all crazy over the moon for a name being thrown out there. So given the track record, given the experience, given the familiarity, even though the Big 12 is much different than what he was largely a part of, I think that's a name that it makes sense. It might not be the sexiest name in the world, but it makes sense, and I think he could do a good job at Houston. But a lot of what they need to do is the fundraising part of it. That's the main kind of goal and what was basically said with their decision to pivot the way that they did in the past month. So, yeah, if he can help drum up some cash and get that machine rolling, then that's what Houston's looking for. And if not, then hopefully they land on the right person that can do that. But it is interesting to see his name pop up, and Joseph wouldn't mention that if there wasn't some smoke to that.
All right, in the chat room, Craig, Kim Coulter, Craig was solid pissed earlier. Anyone know what that was about? It was a conundrum told him. No, you weren't pissed. It was about not getting credit for the quote from one of the tweets. You weren't pissed.
I think just that we were just clarifying.
Right. No, and I wasn't even. I mean, I think I'm probably the least pissed of all of us actually here. I think y'all have actually. No, I mean, I think y'all have been more strongly adamant about the lack of credit. And I, like I've said, it's not even say Craig Smoke. Say 365 Sports.
Yeah.
Say something like give us
at least credit where it came from.
We did the 3-on-1 interview where that quote came from, and a lot of people nationally said, "Hey, here's where this came from," or quoted me, and at least in that way gave a roundabout bit of credit. And then there were some other intentionally lazy or just kind of dishonest folks who all they care about is impressions and tried to run with it as though it was something he said at the podium. And it wasn't. It was in one very specific conversation with us and us alone. And I put the tweet out there. And so thank you to the hundreds of folks who acknowledged that. It's just the principle of the thing.
Yeah.
That's the way you're supposed to do it, because if a big story breaks, like Joseph Duarte mentioning Oliver Luck, we're not going to come on here and be like our own graphic Oliver Luck talking to Houston and then not give Joseph any credit. That's just the way that you're supposed to do it. So it's the principle of the matter. I'm not pissed. I know what era we're living in where that's going to be the case, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to sound off on it, especially when there are people who absolutely know better that did that and did that intentionally. And I just think that speaks ill of them and their swagger jackers.
I have to share this with you, swagger jackers. That's something I need to learn. That's a hell of a nice term. Andy Tarbutton used to listen to me on radio in Tyler back in the day. Used to come to a couple of the events that I would host. He called the show many, many times. He actually responded to what Scotty B and me and about that. And he goes, it's not that hard. And thanks to Craig for having the balls to ask the question. And then also for Aranda for answering it transparently.
Aranda deserves all the credit, guys.
Absolutely.
I mean, Aranda had that statement, and I just, I wish you could have seen it, but he left us dumbfounded for a second because we're like
he doesn't answer questions that fast.
No, he doesn't answer questions that fast. It was just bluntly like, we're paying players. Yeah. And they were just staring at each other like, did he just say that?
Yeah, we laughed.
Yeah, we giggled, like uncomfortably laughing because you don't know how else to react. Not uncomfortable in a bad way. And then, like, after I paused for a second and realized, like, no, that's all he's saying, was like, I followed up. And I asked, so it's like, I think it was something along the lines of like, so it's just really that simple, right?
Yeah,
and he was like, yeah. And he just went on a little bit more about it. But yeah, it was that simple. Like that was the deadpan answer. And it was just how short and to the point, but dead on it was that he was not joking, even though it came across that way. And I think that it ended up being a really great moment for Dave Aranda and Baylor as a result from media days, because on the one hand, you have a Mike Gundy who's making headlines for all the wrong reasons on one day. But on day two, I think if we walk away from the entire event, sure, people were going gaga over Dion or, whoever else, or they were ranting on Mike Gundy. But I think that was like one of the coolest moments of the entire event. I think that worked out well for Dave Aranda.
I think so, even though some wanted to even criticize him for why would you admit that? God. All right, when we come back, Billy Embody, SMU. He also covers LSU. That's Garrett's favorite team, so I'm sure he'll sneak in a Go Tigers type of question. The dragon is the Paul symbol when he's whoa.
Whoa.
Why don't I just read? What did I do?
I'm the stallion. I'm the stallion.
Like Rocky
That's the dragon.
And I'm the old crazy uncle.
And that's the tinkle right there.
The tinkle. He doesn't know how to respond, then I wouldn't either, to be honest with you.
There is a Smokey Thesaurus, and it's not something that most human beings should ever open.
Yeah, no, I'm the dragon. Who do we give credit to for that? I forget every time.
It's Moses, Craig Moses.
Craig Moses, yeah. I get the names mixed up because we've had so many great listeners. But
Clint Moses.
Clint Moses, yeah. And so thank you to Clint, and does really good stuff, and I really appreciate his support. But
I'm the tinkle. Yeah.
And we'll work on that. We'll workshop that thing for you. We got to be a little stronger than because it's like you got dragon and stallion and then the tinkle. Like that just doesn't vibe.
Speaking of which,
well, I guess we need to take.
Yeah,
Paul, I was going to ask you about the Red Sox lineup next season and how you wanted to, or this season, and break down or
City?
Whatever. Yeah, let's go.
Retired stockbroker, thanks for your super chat. Craig, stand your ground. Spew fire
at will.
Thank you very much. And CFB, my emoji is the splashing of water. When we come back, Billy Embody. Later on in the hour, Carl Williams, the fourth defensive back for Baylor. Really enjoyed speaking with him, talking to him, getting some information from him. That's the little stinger for the Super Chat retired stockbroker. I'm David Smoke, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke. We're not done, 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Kicking off July with some smoking hot deals, like a 2023 Chevrolet Suburban High Country 4-wheel drive for $68,885 and 45 cents. 2020 Jeep Rubicon. These are pre-owned cars that are marvelous. Officially trail rated to go anywhere, do anything with leather seats for only $41,785. How about the 2022 Dodge Charger SRT, 8 wide body with 4,000 miles on it, $87,750. Speed you want? How about this 2020 Chevrolet Camaro SS convertible, one owner car for $36,250. Or they just traded for a smoking hot Ford Mustang Mach 1. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. If you want pre-owned and you want speed, come and look at what they have. The last Dodge Challenger Hellcats left in captivity. Ted Teague, the CEO and general manager, a great staff. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason or two or three reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
Helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation. So you get the best value. You get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem, like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Billy Embody joins 365 Sports on 3, covers LSU, also SMU, and he is kind of been busy. LSU's not doing bad. They always are going to end up recruiting well, but it's been a great run for SMU. He joined us on 365 Sports. Billy, on Wednesday, Dave Aranda, Baylor, and other teams were in Vegas at the Big 12 Media Days, and we were just talking about this. Craig asked him about the uptick in Baylor recruiting, and without blinking in any way, shape, or form, he said, we're paying players. Now, I know SMU joining the ACC gave him a lift, but how refreshing was that, and what would Rhett Lashley say if asked the same question?
You know, it's interesting that Dave Aranda, I've known for years now, went all out in a way and said that, because it matches up with what the Bears are doing in recruiting. You know, you look at Kamorian Morgan, you know, landing him out of Dallas. I mean, that was, you know, a big piece to the puzzle for him. And some of his family admitted that as well on social media. But with Rhett, you know, Rhett has taken the approach, and this goes back to the transfer portal as well, as, you know, admitting, of course, that SMU has some very generous donors in the NIL space with Collective. But they also hope that guys are picking SMU because that's where they want to be. And from my conversations with people, they do draw a line in the sand when it comes to overpaying and, you know, really, I think making it truly about NIL. That's not the type of kid they normally try to go after. I mean, there might be a bit, you know, an extenuating circumstance here and there as far as like a position of need or a premier position when it comes to value, like defensive line or offensive tackle, those type of positions. But SMU is taking the approach where they want kids to want to commit to them, and then knowing that NIL is something that can come into play. There are obviously certain situations, like you look at a guy like flipping Ty Hawkins from TCU. TCU certainly had a nice NIL package on the table for him, as did plenty of other schools that had discussions with him. But, you know, SMU really needed a quarterback. And so I know that's a piece for Ty, but they had also been recruiting him for their schools were going to make it difficult on them to keep him. So SMU tries to walk the fine line. They want kids who are going to commit to them and want to eventually earn that type of NIL. And in some cases, they also jump into the mix with it in the high school ranks when, allowed, or however that works out contractually with what collectives do now. But yeah, I think he recognizes what SMU's done in the NIL space and being, quite honestly, a leader in particular when it comes to the transfer portal space. So he's not naive. I do think that I don't know if he would be as open as Dave was with that comment, but certainly something that we might get a chance to hear from him on with ACC Media Day 2 weeks away.
Billy, how much does that keep, the fact that knowing that you're going to have NIL stepped up and all these other things keep Rhett Lashley out of the coaching pool for other schools? Look, I mean, it's no secret that Arkansas is teetering on the brink of making a change, and would not be surprised to see that, them call up an SMU coach again. But, they really have it better than most when it comes to the availability of cash on hand.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He just got an extension that obviously he deserved when it came to what he put together with the AAC championship and where he has led SMU in his time on the hilltop. But not only NIL, but facilities. They're going to open about $125 million end zone football-only operations center that also expands the stadium and closes it in and really changes the feel of Ford Stadium. And then NIL is a big piece as well. Coaches want to know that they can go out and get players that they need in this new landscape of college football. So I'm sure there are jobs that he would entertain out there if certain programs came calling. There's, little doubt to that. And Mississippi State was a school that reached out to him this past offseason. There were a couple of others. But he opted to stay put at SMU. I think his list is, fairly short outside of the, true blue bloods of college football that he would really listen to. He's pretty happy from what it seems. He's got a lot of support. And watching the program closely, I can see that more people, as the ACC season, the first season in the ACC gets closer, you're seeing more and more people jump on that bandwagon from an alumni standpoint. So the resources are there in a big way, and I do think that's a reason why a lot of his staff stayed as well at SMU this offseason.
And their positioning now is just so night and day from what it was prior to the ACC and all that came with it. So, yeah, I can see why there's some belief in building this thing out for a good while. And certainly when you're going and you're flipping commits from your arch rival in TCU and big-time four-star dual threats like Ty Hawkins. Billy, you mentioned him a few minutes ago. Just what kind of, reverberations did you get from that decision? And just what does it mean, you think, big picture for SMU?
Yeah, Ty Hawkins, Jalen Cooper, four-star wide receiver, Ahmad Odom.
Mm-hmm.
They've been on a heater, like you guys mentioned in the opening. But to flip Ty and Isaiah Robertson as well from Texas Tech last week. But Ty Hawkins was someone that SMU offered a few months before TCU did. They just didn't have that Power 5, Power 4 conference backing. And Ty's sister went to SMU, graduated from there, ran track. She had a good experience. And, I think that played a part as well, the familiarity there. And over the last, 7-8 months, they really kept up an open dialogue, just in case something happened with Keelan Russell. So SMU got him on campus for that official visit. And I've done a lot of interviews about official visits over my decade plus, and that was about as strong of a interview as I've ever heard from a recruit. Just absolutely raved, about 10 minutes almost uninterrupted, on how great the visit was. And, he had a bunch of things coming up after that, Elite 11, his sister's graduation from law school, and then TCU was bringing him in for an official visit. But SMU, throughout that time, always kept in contact with him after that. They never felt like they were out of it with him. And sure enough, right before the 4th of July, their push paid off. So it was a big deal to get that win for Rhett Lashley. And I can tell you what, if they can if they can beat TCU September 21st or 22nd, whatever it is, that would be a massive, massive blow to kind of what Sonny's trying to build over there at TCU, in my opinion, at least, because, just after last season, you're only as good as your last season, and that goes for just about anyone in college football these days. And if SMU can get over the hump with playing TCU with Rhett and Sonny, that would be a big, big deal as well.
Billy, you do a great job with the recruiting, and we say SMU, LSU, but you understand the business and how it works and have been doing that for a long time. Grayson Grundhafer is a recruiting analyst and a football analyst for us on 365 Sports, and I asked him earlier about Red Oak wide receiver Taz Williams, who Penn State, SMU, Baylor, and maybe one or two others are in that mix. What are you hearing on him?
Taz is one of the more interesting recruitments in the DFW area, I feel like. He's been on the radar for so long. He's got just about every offer you could want, and now he's kind of down to this group that really, it seems like, is SMU and Baylor in the state, and then Penn State, which is where he's from, that area originally, and moved down to Red Oak to play high school. So right now, I lean towards it being an SMU Penn State battle. I know all the buzz that has been around Baylor with Kamorian Morgan committing there. They've also, been tossing around some serious money as well. But he does have an official visit, at least on the table, in the future with Baylor. And I just, throughout the last, 3 or 4 months, as he's gotten official visits, done all these things, he hasn't really talked up Baylor until that really happened with Kamorian, and then they didn't get him on campus for an official in June. So I do feel like Baylor is still going to battle and try and get him after the fact. And who knows, maybe he does pull the surprise and he commits there on Saturday. But this one's shaping up to be SMU Penn State battle, at least from what I'm gathering. And it really is. I think it's going to be a toss-up. I don't think we're going to see something really break where all of a sudden one coaching staff gets a lot of confidence. He's either going to tell one side right before he makes the decision, or he's going to keep it close to the vest all the way through. So that is kind of rare to see that happen in recruiting these days. Somebody leaks something and you kind of hear about it, but Penn State's done a really good job recruiting him. I'll say this about SMU. They also have done a good job, and they have so much playing time available next season. They lose 6 wide receivers, and they might lose 7 if Jordan Hudson has the season that they hope he does. So they'll be replacing their entire wide receiver group.
Billy, I know you cover LSU as well, but what's it like just to kind of be where SMU is right now as a guy who's covered them for a good long time and just kind of take in, all the things that you're talking about, versus maybe what you're thinking and talking about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, somebody asked me that earlier this week, and if SMU hadn't gotten on that lifeboat with the ACC, who knows? I think a lot of people would have maybe canceled their subscription to the site, or probably followed it a little bit, more casually than they have in the past. And it's going to be emotional for a lot of people when Florida State rolls into Ford Stadium to play that first ACC game from the fans. But someone who's covered this program for a long time, and I went there as well, it's pretty cool to see it be back where they honestly, biased here a little bit, but they should belong. They've got three national championships. They were the only group of 5 that went Power 5 or moved up in a sense outside of independent BYU that has national championships on their resume in football. So they're now back kind of where they were. We know the death penalty isn't likely to be handed down again, and I think some people would maybe like that over again, and then some people in the state of Texas would certainly vote for it again. But for SMU fans and for people that have been around the program a long, long time now, this is pretty surreal to see it come together, and all the attention and all the things that are falling in place is pretty cool to cover. And the next step is taking it up to the next level when it comes to the on-field play as they move to the ACC now. That now they've got to continue to build on what they've done in the portal and adding in that high school flavor of trying to be in the top 25 classes, which they are right now. I haven't looked in a couple days, but I think they were higher than any Big 12 team last I looked, unless somebody made a move. But so they've got things rolling right now, and there's a lot of excitement. And that's, again, it's been a long time that I've been covering the program, and to see it get this type of attention is now a little bit of validation for sticking that part out too.
Well, it's been a long wait, and I'm happy for them. I know that there was some thoughts about, well, no, don't let them in a conference because they're going to do what they're doing now, which is recruit, and they're doing incredibly well. Garrett Ross, who produces the show, is a LSU homer, and so with you also, and we have Mike Scarborough on occasionally, but with you being an LSU guy, Garrett, and what Billy does covering the Tigers, you want to pepper him with a question or two.
Yeah, Billy. So LSU, has traditionally been known as DBU, but if you look really at the past couple of years, and I think you might even be able to make a case since Aranda left, that really hasn't been the case, and you got guys coming back like Sage Ryan who were okay last year but didn't really make the jump that they needed to do. How do you see that position group kind of reeling in and getting back to what LSU is known for in under year one with Blake Baker?
Yeah, I love Blake Baker. I love the defensive staff they brought in, and they needed to do that from the standpoint of those guys understand the level that LSU needs to be at defensively, and the floor that the players that they recruit need to meet to be an LSU player, and in particular in the secondary. DBU is a long history of guys like Stingley and Fulton and Delpit and so many others that have come through. LSU went through a time where, as they transitioned to Brian Kelly, the staff that was there hustled. They landed some big recruiting wins, JV and Toviano right out of Texas, but they also probably reached on some guys. And you couple that with last season's transfer portal haul not really hitting, and that's where you saw a lot of the drop-off. I mean, this season they're going to play true freshmen like T.J. Woodland, who's probably going to start game one. Mm-hmm. They might start Michael Turner, another true freshman who's converting from wide receiver as a high school signee, and then Ashton Stamps, a young promising corner, and they're going to hope that Ty Alexander returns to his form. That is a interesting position for LSU to be in, even compared to last season where that secondary struggled. So they're relying on some veterans. Jordan Gilbert for Texas A&M transferred in. They have Sage back, like you mentioned. Major Burns is back. The safety room is okay, but they are overall in a rebuilding mode. And for Corey Raymond and Jake Olson, who's the safeties coach, they've got to nail this high school class and then probably still add from the transfer portal. They're in on 5 stars like DJ Pickett. They're trying their everything to land some talent. They're going to land, I think, a 4-star safety on Saturday, and Jace Thomas, who's from Louisiana, who's really blown up. They've got to find ways to add multiple corners who can play right away, because that's really where they're at with this cornerback room. And then safety has some young talent that's coming up. Deshaun McBride is a really nice safety who's a freshman. So the safety room's in a little bit better of a spot, but the cornerback room, you got to hope that they all stay healthy and they take some major steps forward this season.
Billy, as always, great information and insight, and thank you for your time. Enjoy what you're doing there. Have a good weekend. Enjoy ACC Media Days. That ought to be great.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm excited for it and appreciate you guys having me on.
You too. Billy Embody on many things SMU, but also even a note or two about Baylor and their recruitment with Kamarian Morgan from South Oak Cliff, and then how that might, if at all, affect Taz Williams, the stud receiver out of Red Oak High School. When we come back, Carl Williams IV, a Baylor defensive back, was one of those who visited with us in Vegas on Wednesday. Love his personality and kind of you could feel like effusive when his leadership of, does any of that transition into what they do this fall? I don't know. But his interview with us about Baylor, the defense with Dave Aranda running the show, and much more, that is next. And this is 365 Sports.
Celebrate American quality and American value during the Red, White, and Blue sale at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. And when you go and you shop around the red, white, and blue sale, you will see professional-grade power mixed with first-class luxury and interior and a multi-pro tailgate. You'll see the GMC Sierra, the best truck on the road right now, and Richard Carr is loaded with trucks, including the GMC Sierra. Right now, you can save $9,000 on all 2024 GMC Sierra SLT trucks in stock with a 2010 or newer trade-in. $9,000 on GMC 2024 SLT trucks in stock with a 2010 or new trade-in. You can find Sierra trucks under $40K just in general, and you can look more into those savings and other savings on the GMC Sierras and their various other vehicles on the red, white, and blue tags on the lot right now over at Richard Carr and over on their website as well. So check out those deals right now. They've also got a lot full of pre-owned cars and trucks, highly inspected, over 100 used cars and trucks, all special price during this red, white, and blue tag sale. So whether you're getting into a new vehicle like the GMC Sierra SLT, or you're looking to take advantage of the wide variety of used cars and trucks and SUVs on their lot, well, you can do either or maybe even do both, depending on your situation. But if you're going to do so, take advantage right now of that red, white, and blue tag sale. With a dozen lenders to choose from, they get credit approved, and when others can't, as 100% credit approval is always their goal. For 25 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on with your automotive needs. Log on to Richard Carr. That's KARR.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. And only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America. 5 locations in Waco. And the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com. From their pasture to your plate, premium quality Texas farm-raised beef. Samantha, you've had more and more online auctions, and you have another one coming up in the middle of this month.
On July 17th, that will open our next steak auction, and it closes the next day on July 18th. About 48 hours of tomahawk, New York strip, flat iron, ground beef, both Angus and Wagyu. It's a lot of fun to get on. You just get on to bidonbeef.com, create an account, and it'll walk you through all the steps that you have to do in order to bid. Everything ships for free nationwide in the lower 48 states.
The flat iron steak to me is underrated. Fajitas, it tastes so good.
The flat iron is my absolute favorite. And then, of course, your tomahawk, that's just a showstopper. It's something exciting to put on the grill for everybody to see. Each steak is about anywhere from 3 to 4 pounds. I'm telling you what, it'll feed pretty much a whole family. A 4-pound tomahawk feeds the 6 of us.
The 48 states ship free. Go to TexasBeefHouse.com. Again, premium quality Texas farm-raised beef, Wagyu, Wagyu, Angus. It is amazing. July 17th and 18th, tomahawk, New York strip, flat iron, ground beef, Angus, and Wagyu. You really are doing these auctions more and more frequently.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of great feedback. A lot of people love to get online. The ending is what we call a horse race finish. So at 6 p.m. when the auction ends, if anybody has been bidding in that last 2 minutes, it keeps the auction open for 2 more minutes, and that continues until all bidding has stopped. So that's kind of the exciting thing to watch at the very end is, the timer reset because people are getting on there and they're making sure that they're getting that lot that they want. So this is your best bet to get the best price, and it's a price that you want to pay, not what we're setting the price, and you're getting it in bulk. So you're getting more than just one package of steaks. You're getting, depending on which lot, anywhere from 4 to 8 packages of steaks.
Go to TexasBeefHouse.com, July 17th and 18th, the auction. And you can find much more information. Bidonbeef.com. And don't forget the discount if you put hashtag Sick'em365.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Carl Williams, the fourth, with us on 365 Sports, Baylor defensive back. What's it like to be one of those representing Baylor?
It's a blessing. Being able to see my hard work's just starting to pay off. Blessed that I got the coaches who believe in me too. It's just a pretty cool opportunity.
The secondary appears to be maybe one of the bigger strengths of the team. Mm-hmm. You got the Jenkins brothers there. You've got you. Coach Aranda just said that he feels really confident in your jump this year and how you're going to do that. So, what can people expect to see from that position this year?
From the secondary, guys just flying around making plays. We got guys like who you said,
Jenkins,
the Jenkins brothers. We got Devin Lemire, Devin Bobby. DJ Coleman. We've got guys like that who can really fly around, and other people inside those rooms too, the corner and safety room. But I feel like we're just going to fly around. We're preparing. We're learning the playbook very well, like the back of our hands. So we should be flying around making plays.
Are you playing star? Is that kind of the plan, or as far as what's your specific role? How would you describe your specific role on defense?
My specific role, I would say that I'm playing both. I'm getting to learn both strong safety and star. So just learning both, being able to be used at both positions, making myself available. I feel like that's just the biggest thing.
With Coach Aranda now, the defensive coordinator, and he was around, but he really wasn't all that into that last year. Matthew Pallage, of course, still around. Patterson's around. What's changed? What's the way you line up, the way you attack, the way you guys play defense, the scheme? Has much changed in all that?
I say the biggest change is us growing up. It's no beating around the bush. We went 3-9 last year. Guys came back. We was a young team last year. Guys came back, and we knew this is not the standard. This is not the Baylor standard. And having Dave Aranda on the defense, he put a chip on our shoulder too. Coach Palace put that chip on our shoulder. Gary Patterson coming in, he helps the safeties a lot. I talked to him before practice, maybe in the film room, topping it up with him. It's a good talk, and he's just helping us, trying to be a better us. So I'd say that's the biggest thing.
It's got to be pretty cool having Dave Aranda and Gary Patterson as two guys, and Pallage and everybody else. But, you talk about, two of the heavyweight defensive minds of the last several years. Just how much do you enjoy being able to absorb that knowledge?
Man, I'm excited. It's crazy because, having Dave Aranda, mastermind, he can talk ball all day. Coach Pallage, love watching film with Coach Pallage. He helps me out a lot with learning defenses and everything like that. And Gary Patterson, just having him around, helping us as well. It's a lot of information being spilled around, and, that's a good thing for the safeties room. And, yeah.
All right, let's talk stakes. I heard last night that there was a stake situation that you were a part of. True or false?
True.
Okay.
You just can't help competing, can you?
How much of the stake did you get down?
I got most of it down.
Okay.
So let's start right there. Me and KT, Keaton Thomas, had tomahawk steaks. And I was like, I bet I eat more than you. He was like, you want to bet? I was like, why not? So then, boom, we was eating it. and like mine was just full of a bunch of fat. So like it looked like he ate more, but like I wasn't eating the fat.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, I say I won, and I ate the vegetables too.
How did you feel afterwards?
Felt a little heavy.
Update the weight on the depth or on the roster, right?
Oh yeah, update that.
But yeah,
that's a big piece of product to eat, protein, and it looks like a billy club or like the Vikings ate that. That's what they used to eat when they just like rip it out of the side of whatever they killed, right?
Yeah.
Have you had one before?
I never had one before.
Well, you have one again.
We'll see in the
future. Never say never.
Never say never.
Man, you came in as a true freshman and just making starts and playing right away. What do you attribute that ability to just come in and play so young and to contribute on that level? And just how did that make you better heading into this season? Obviously experience, but, just exploring all of that playing time and what that can do for you.
I feel like going through that journey, I mean, it was a lot of ups and downs. Like I came in early during the spring, started off at corner as well, but that spring it was tough. Learning all the defenses, like I was trying to figure out why cover 4 almost turns into man. Like I'm confused. So just learning through the spring and then going through that, and then that summer knowing what I need to prepare for, knowing how I need to prep. I mean, I feel like that helped me during the season, and making that switch from You said
I was just saying, just in general, just playing as a true freshman. I know you play at star a little bit. You're talking about multiple positions, but just in general, how does that help you going into this season and just having that experience and knowing what it's like to play college football?
Oh yeah, it helps a lot because like you have that experience. Those jitters start to leave the more you play. The more that you see the field, it starts to slow down for you, and I feel like that's a big thing because if things slow down for you, you can read in your keys, you can react fast and move fast and make plays on the ball.
You played at Southern Lab, right, in Louisiana, and was your last year you're 8-6? Was that your senior year?
Nah, we didn't go 8-6.
Okay, but you don't like losing. Nobody likes losing. So what was last year like for you that you were 3-9?
It was tough. Like Southern Lab, winning program, winning high school, and I know Baylor is too. But having that season last year, it was kind of just like tough. Like it was like just a bad feeling. Like around the locker room, it was a bad feeling. A feeling that we need to fix, pretty much. But yeah, that's how I felt.
12-2, I think. Was that your senior year?
Nah, that was my junior year. We won the state championship then.
Yeah, you guys won a lot though. Yeah. You won. That's wondering about how much that burns you then when you lose, when it just builds up on you.
A lot, because nobody likes to lose, especially like coming from winning programs. Like nobody loves to lose. Nobody likes to lose. Everybody loves to win and willing to do whatever it takes to win. So I feel like everybody's preparing themselves accordingly for us to have a winning season this year.
What's it like going up against this offense? Changes over on that side of the ball as well, quarterback competition, all of that. What do you see from that side of the football?
It's fun going against that offense, man. It's a spread offense, a lot more passing attacks, downhill run game, but it's fun going against it. It helps us become better, especially getting used to the tempo. So when teams have tempo, they use it as like an advantage. It's not an advantage no more when we see it all the time in practice. So going against that offense is fun. The guys on that side of the ball with the wide receivers like Monterey Baldwin, Keytron Jackson, Hal Presley, it's fun going against them guys.
Coach Aranda said this, and we'll let you go. We appreciate your time. Good to see you. That got some dogs now. Guys who we've mentioned this, hate to lose, but guys who get pissed off when things aren't going right, that aren't happy even in practice when something doesn't get run correctly. Is that what you've seen too?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that a lot. I mean, it's a standard now. Like, it's always been a standard, but we're upholding that standard now. So having guys like me, Keaton Thomas, Matt Jones and everything like that, and especially the D-line with Jackie Marshall and everything like that, holding us accountable, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So having that, like, hate to lose, like, hey, man, get your stuff right. Having that around on the field, I mean, I feel like it's making us better.
Thanks for your time. Carl Williams IV with us from Southern Lab in Louisiana. This is 365 Sports.
Really enjoyed every player that we had a chance to visit with. Did we ever run Matt Jones?
We still got to run Matt Jones. I think we can run that either Monday or we'll get on Sports Tonight.
Okay, yeah, he was good too, and he admitted some of his faults when he's a player with some penalties.
Who?
Matt Jones.
Who?
Oh,
no,
man.
Mike Jones. Sorry,
Yeah.
you don't quite.
No, I don't.
Follow me, but it's just a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
281-330.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's a
All
hip hop
right.
thing, yeah.
When we come back, Paul Catalina at his top 5, and we have a lot more to get to. Next week, lots of other media days, including the SEC. I've already talked to Sam Kahn. He's going to be there and probably joins us both the days. I think one day with Oklahoma or A&M and another day that has Texas, and he's going to probably be our guy in Dallas for a couple of different days among a couple of others.
Yeah, we definitely need to get to Matt Jones at some point because he gave us some quality minutes. But I was just really impressed by Carl Williams IV.
I was too.
I mean, he's a true sophomore, starting strong safety. Because he played a little bit of star last year, and that's what I thought was kind of in the works, like with the addition of Kendrick Simpkins. And I'm still kind of figuring out how they're going to kind of do things. But he was like, no, like he's saying he's starting a strong safety. So that provides some clarity that I didn't otherwise have. Besides that, though, like I just really enjoy talking to him, and I think he's like a guy who, if his play translates, is a guy you can easily see in a couple of years playing in the NFL. Like I really do. I think he's got all the intangibles and just has to keep growing as a player, but I think it says a lot to bring a true sophomore to media days and have him so well represent you. I was thoroughly impressed by the whole group, but he was definitely one of those, as well as the big personality of Keaton Thomas. I think he had a whole big, just animated personality that was hard to not really enjoy, but I thought the whole group was good, including Matt Jones. But to your point about SEC Media Days, that's starting on Monday. That'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're in Dallas. And then Mac Media Day, I believe, is just the single day on Friday, so that'll be the full schedule for next week, and then you'll have the final week, which you'll get into the Big Ten, the ACC. So we've got a couple of weeks of really interesting stuff that could emanate from all of those events, just like we saw with the Big 12 this past week in Vegas. So I'm looking forward to, as some refer to it, talking season, but I think there's so many interesting things going on that it's not just boring talk. Like there's a lot of things going on that makes for some interesting quotes coming out of events. So yeah, the SEC next week and the MAC ought to be a lot of fun as well to be able to absorb some stuff from.
We will have Paul Catalina in his top 5 in just a moment, but for 1 second or two, TexasBeefHouse.com. They have been a sponsor of this show now for about 18 months. They reached out to us. We got them on the air. And some of you have bought their product, and some of you have bought a lot of their product. And if you haven't, I'm asking you that, if you don't mind, go to TexasBeefHouse.com and look at what they have, because what they have is farm-raised, East Texas farm-raised Wagyu beef, cattle right there. I've been on their farm or their ranch, and it's amazing to me, the Angus cattle that they have and the Wagyu opportunities, whether it's sausage or brisket or flat iron steak, which is Samantha Duvall, their marketing director, brings that up all the time. But, yeah, they also have steaks, a bunch of them. They have the next live auction, bidonbeef.com. Bidonbeef.com. It's July 17th and 18th, early next week. If you want, go to TexasBeefHouse.com, and then something pops up on the screen that takes you to what is available with the Bid on Beef next July 17th and 18th. Here's one of the endorsements. I can give you mine. The food is delicious. The product is delicious. Yeah, this is from Thomas. We like the ribeyes the best. The marbling associated with this cut was phenomenal. Furthermore, taste and tenderness was exceptional. The ground beef was very lean, had exceptional taste. That's just one of what you see as some of the reviews if you go to their website. I've had it myself, and if you trust my opinion, it is absolutely fantastic. TexasBeefHouse.com with the Duvall family and what they're doing to change the beef business and how you get what you want based on not what the price is in the store, but how much you want to pay for it yourself with even online and live auctions. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels. Drive the all-new 2024 Grand Cherokee 4XE or Wrangler 4XE today. Lease payments start at just $589 a month or finance for 2.9% for 84 months. Experience legendary Jeep performance with cutting-edge hybrid technology. Hurry, only at Allen Samuels in Waco. See dealer for details.
Come by. Let's be friends. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
And it's Paul Catalina's Top 5 presented by Texas Beef House. Go to TexasBeefHouse.com. Use our promo code SICK'EM10 to save 10% off of your order. Many satisfied customers. They got the auction coming up here next week on July 17th and 18th. So make sure that you go and get your Texas-raised Wagyu beef. Many satisfied customers. We have gotten nothing but rave reviews, and we've had some of their stuff. Believe me, it's good. And when a guy with this face tells you that meat's good, you know it's good. I'm trustworthy. There's trustworthiness in fat. Anyhow, top 5 post-Media Day Big 12 predictions. Numero 5. Someone we don't expect will be in the title game. This is not so much of a prediction because of Big 12 Media Days, but it just reaffirmed it to me. This conference is so topsy-turvy. Right now, we all expect it to be Utah and Kansas State. That's what I picked, but guess what? I'm probably wrong. You're probably wrong. We're all probably wrong. 6 different teams have won this conference over the last few years. A bunch of different teams have played the title game. That means that if history continues, someone we don't expect, a West Virginia, a UCF, a Texas Tech, a TCU, will be in that title game. Now, probably against somebody that we expect, like a Utah, a Kansas, or a Kansas State, or maybe even Oklahoma State. Don't freak out because I didn't say your name, guys. But that is going to happen because that's what the Big 12 is, and that is what makes this conference so fun. Number 4, Josh Hoover will have a big year. I think this guy kind of got thrown into the ringer last year. They had a quarterback controversy. TCU didn't have their culture right, according to Sonny Dykes. And Sonny Dykes sang his praises. I actually talked about this in the same spot yesterday on the top 5 at number 4. I think Josh Hoover is going to have a big year. When you put Kendall Briles' offense together with Sonny Dykes and him saying he's one of the best. Garrett, that was right. One of the best he's ever coached.
Yeah, one of the best he's ever coached.
One of the best he's ever coached. And Sonny Dykes coached some guys, whether as a position coach, a coordinator, or as a head coach. So watch out. Josh Hoover is going to have a big year. Number 3. Eventually, West Virginia will finish towards the top of the league. Neil Brown, we did not get to talk to him, which really bums me out because I wanted to get a gauge on it, but I've gone back and watched. He still has that same chip on his shoulder about last year, and because he's heard one of the things I talked about in the bulletin board material segment on Monday, or Tuesday, it was Tuesday, on the top 5, was, okay, he won 9 games, prove it's not a fluke. Neil Brown doesn't like hearing that word. He knows it wasn't a fluke. You should know it wasn't a fluke, and he's out to prove it to you this year. Look, they've got one of the more exciting quarterbacks in the league in Garrett Green. The guy can make plays. They've got a really solid running game. They've got a really solid offensive line. Their defense will be good. They've got playmakers out at wide receiver. There's no reason to think that this team can't do something. But again, really hard to predict, but I'm predicting West Virginia and Garrett Green because of his playmaking ability. The same way, look, it would be foolish of me to go all in on Avery Johnson like I have and then not look over at Garrett Green and see a lot of the same traits right there. And again, world's number 1 outside of Manhattan, Kansas, Avery Johnson fan right here. Like I'm big on him. And, Garrett Green kind of getting on that train too. He's got the potential to be very fun to watch. He's been better year over year. We'll see what happens in year 3 for him up in the mountains. Number 2, Baylor makes a bowl game. 6 wins, very doable. Dave Aranda calling defensive plays, Jake Spavital calling offensive plays. Look, I think they still have a ways to go talent-wise, but I think with DeQuan Finn, who I believe will ultimately be the quarterback, and Sawyer Robertson in a system that fits him, I think that they've got enough on offense to make plays. Along the front, still needs some building, but Dave Aranda calling the defense will make that work a lot better. It will allow Matt Pallage to be much more of a position coach, of which he is a lead at. Matt Pallage, first year as the sole DC, wasn't ready for that. But you know how I know he will be ready for it? He's still on the staff. And Dave Aranda believes that he will be. And look, if there's one thing that we know about Dave Aranda is he is one of the elite defensive coordinators in the history of college football. The history of college football. His Wisconsin and LSU defenses are among the best ever. His first year, where he was probably maybe a little bit more involved-ish, Baylor defense took a step forward with his concepts, and Ron Roberts calling it. Now Dave Aranda takes that back over. We saw a bit of a different Dave at Media Days and on Southwest Flight 583 from Las Vegas to Austin. But there's a little bit of difference there. He knows the score, and he's a smart guy. Now, I'm not telling you Baylor's going to be in the title game or anything like that, but 6 or 7 wins I think is very doable for this team, especially given their early schedule. If they can go 4-2 through the first 6, then, which I think is very reasonable. If they can go 4-2 through the first 6, then they just got to find 2 the rest of the way. That was kind of what they had to do last year, and they couldn't do it. And then once they started out so poorly, it was just the wheels the wheels didn't come off. The wheels never got put on the Baylor bus last year. Number 1, the Big 12 will have a Heisman candidate. I'm going to list off some people for you, and Garrett, stop me if I get to one that's unrealistic. All right? Ollie Gordon, Taj Brooks, Devin Neal, Jalen Daniels, Cam Rising, Garrett Green, Avery Johnson,
Shadur
Sanders, Travis Hunter, Noah Fafita, Tet McMillan.
The list goes, man.
I can keep going. I can absolutely keep going. I'll even throw out some dark horses out there. Micah Bernard at Utah, going to get a ton of carries, might score a ton of touchdowns this year. I
mean, KJ Jefferson could ball out.
KJ Jefferson. And the last time Gus Malzahn had a quarterback built like that with that skill set, what did that quarterback do? He won the Heisman Trophy. It was Cam Newton. The Big 12 will have a Heisman candidate. And by Heisman candidate, I mean their ass is in a chair at the Heisman Trust in New York City in December. They will have one. Mark my words. And if not, I'll be a monkey's uncle. I don't even know what that means. Such an old saying. But whatever. Sure. The Big 12 will have a Heisman candidate. I'll do this for all the leagues, but since we're fresh off of Big 12 Media Days, guess what next week? Going to be SEC heavy. And as you know how I feel about the SEC, will all be totally complimentary. I will suckle at the teat of the SEC if I've got to. I don't have any pride or shame. That's going to do it for the top 5. Wrapping it up right now.
You're going to suck a tit?
I said, I mean, like everybody else about the SEC, I'll just suckle at their teat.
Oh,
okay. Oh, the SEC is so good. Let me do hand gestures for all the teams. Nothing they ever do is wrong.
What are you going to do if there's not a Big 12 Heisman finalist in New York?
I didn't say anything. I'm just saying that that's my prediction. I think there will be.
You got to be careful about sometimes.
I'll do a nice, relaxing tequila flight.
There you go. Couldn't help yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think the Big 12's got a lot of interesting Heisman candidates. So you rattle off a bunch of them there. And I also have certain teams I'm feeling better about after being at media days. It's just some of that preseason hype, certainly, but I'm changing my tune for the better on West Virginia. And I know that you mentioned them there, and I'd say TCU as well. And I haven't gone back to revisit my power rankings that we released like 6 weeks ago, but I think there's not really room to move them up too much higher than they were because there's a lot of other good schools ahead of them. But I do feel like West Virginia is getting a little bit disrespected, and I think that TCU could be one of those that is sneakily better than maybe expected. And maybe not sneakily because I think there's a lot of respect just in general for TCU, but they definitely took a step backwards last year, and they're going to have to work their way back into the larger conversation. But I think they might be set up well enough to do that. And West Virginia, there's a lot to like there, man. There really is. They got a lot of playmakers, so I think that they could definitely be much more in the mix than maybe it looks. But I also think that when you see somebody at like 6 or 7 in the polls, that doesn't mean they don't have a shot. That just means there's a lot of teams that are hard to separate, and you eventually just have to list them out. And somebody, even in a tight-knit race, it's more like they're not 6 or 7. It's like they're 2D as opposed to 6 or 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a glut of teams in like the, there might be 2 at 10-2, a couple at 9-3, a bunch of like 8-4, 7-5, and then after that, like it could get a little hodgepodge because somebody's got to lose a lot of these games. But even then, like, will we see maybe one team that's like 2-10 possibly?
Sure.
That's probably going to happen.
Houston could be that, or Baylor if things just go really sideways.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of teams like that, especially given the fact that nobody plays the same schedule. So,
all right. I thought what Neil Welk was saying. It's like, who do you pick? We don't know. We think we do, but usually we don't. By the way, one question at the end, we'll wrap it up, is Smokey, did you enjoy Vegas, the venue, or do you prefer Dallas? It's always nice to get away. It's always nice to kind of get away. Vegas was great. We did not stay on the Strip like Paul did because he's a degenerate. We had an Airbnb. It was very comfortable. It just wasn't one of those type things that we got out much. We had some nice dinners, et cetera, but unlike Garrett and Emery and also Paul and Jack, Craig and I, like you should as adults, finished our work and went home.
Yeah, I didn't love getting up before 6 a.m. every day that we were there. That was new for me.
Yeah,
because
the 2-hour difference,
it was like 5:45 wake-up calls or like 6:15 maybe at the latest, I think, was kind of what it was. And that wasn't necessarily fun, but that was just, that's part of the routine. But that did not detract from being in Vegas, this my first time. I didn't get out and explore like nearly as much had we stayed on the Strip, for example, and we're closer to a lot of things. But I saw enough and experienced enough to know that I have an appreciation for Vegas that otherwise was just a blank.
Yeah.
And I totally see the appeal. That heat is something else, man. Like, it just really is. But we had a really nice Italian meal to close out the trip, and I think we had a lot of really productive stuff happen at media days, and it was a nice change of pace from AT&T. Like, we go to AT&T all the time, man. It's convenient. It's great. It's a better stadium than Allegiant, just because I think it's like the top level that there is. It's a bigger Allegiant, basically.
It's the blueprint.
It's the blueprint for everybody else. But Allegiant is awesome. And, it was just nice to get a break and go somewhere different. And I think it worked out really well in the end.
I was once at AT&T Stadium for events 5 days in a row. Like, for football games and stuff that we'd been there. Like, Baylor and the Cowboys played, and we had high school games.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was, like, another thing. And then, like, it was, like, 5 days in a row we were there. And I was like, now from that point on, I've been.
But the difference in AT&T Stadium compared to what it was like other places, or like the Alamo Dome, is it's a dome, but it doesn't have that. You feel like you're in a dome. It's like the Alamo Dome and a couple other places. You just feel like kind of, and that's a nice stadium too. So I'm not trying to criticize it, but I thought Allegiant was great. I liked the size of it compared to AT&T, but we had a fun time. Had a really good time. Thanks to Alan Samuels, House of Travel, and all of our great sponsors.
I hope they go back.
Yeah, I think next time they go back, I think we'll know it. We know it now. It was easy to get there, but I do think that we could do a little bit more next time we're there. Yeah. Garrett, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time today. Emery Winters dialing up 365 Sports tonight. That runs at 10:30 on the CW. Please hit the like and subscribe button before you say good night. And also hit the weekend. We're back Monday at 3 o'clock, 365 Sports tonight, for Craig Smoke and Paul Catalina, for our great sponsors. I'm David Smoke. Hope you enjoyed the week. We'll see you Monday. Good night. Have a great weekend. 365 Sports.